Okay, now, good. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome. This class is called Path of Light. And let me just rearrange my screen here for a moment. I love teaching this class. It's very much about the abstraction of the concept of what light is. And for anyone who's part of my regular Wednesday class, you know that I've already diverged a lot from my prepared curriculum that I started in 2013 to be able to address what we're experiencing right now in terms of our consciousness, our confrontation with flawed ideation, flawed thought structures, flawed reality structures, flawed religious structures, and religious constructs. And I'm not going to step away from that important pressure that we have right now as a group of consciousnesses that are evolving, growing, being born, and coming forward with the previously established and very, very screwed up and imperfect power structure. We are going to keep on confronting the effed up power structure. And I have to describe this because ordinarily when I teach Path of Light class, I present it and I teach it as a type of not an escapism that is negative, but as a positive refocusing away from constantly looking at what is wrong and what is garbage. And instead looking at light, which is a miracle. Hold on a second, I have to move this thing. Zoom always has like a flashing screen in the back that I cannot have. The miracle of our existence, the phenomenon of what is light, how light relates to your observership or your sense of self-awareness or your sense of consciousness, and also how light describes and defines the world. So I consider this to be like foundational nourishment, essential for your growth and also for your self-direction. Like when I talk about freedom, I'm not just talking about random crazy crap in the world. I'm talking about your ability for self-direction, to be able to say, I am free and I choose to go here or to experience this. So self-direction has a lot to do also with being able to be informed, be intelligent, know, comprehend, and make good choices. All of that relates to Path of Light. So I'm not going to abandon the pressure and the confrontationalism of we need to restructure reality just to delve into and swim around in abstractions. Boy, you know I love abstractions, right? Sometimes I want to say girl, but I'm going to say boy. Hey, everybody, you know I love abstractions. So let's treat today not as getting out of this difficulty with some magical fantasy about what light is, but looking at this from a sense of empowerment, looking at the nature and the structure of reality as to what is functional, what is nourishing or coherent, like what helps to keep us alive and keep us going as consciousness. What do we want to change? What goes in the bin? And before I even go forward with my notes and my prepared animations about the meat and potatoes of actual concept of Path of Light, I wrote updated notes and updated intro. And I also want to tell you guys that you watch me in my classes all the time struggling with technology. For a long time I've been so apologetic to everyone about all of my notes have so many misspellings and like my words are mixed up in my emails and all these different things. I don't think the problem is me. I actually now think the problem is technology and my attempts to make my brain like come out through my fingertips onto technology. So the more that I have gone with paper and pen and regular writing, it seems that it is an easier form of communication. So as I was writing these notes out today, I did eventually transcribe them and I will send them along in an email, because one thing that I also heard as positive student feedback is that you greatly appreciate my notes. And for some people, I think it's good. Some people are not doing a lot of streaming. Like they are not accessing a lot of online videos and they don't want to spend hours watching or connected to what is essentially a world of artificial false light. I cheer. Hooray. Thank you for protecting your retinas. I don't want to be like your ear holes. Thank you for protecting yourself from the perils of excessive streaming. And also that's why I'm doing the transcripts for, not, I shouldn't say transcript. I should say, my written notes that I prepare and that I do these lectures from. But also other things that I'm helping, like Vimeo as an upload place in parallel to YouTube, so that that way you don't have to do commercials, which are more than an annoyance. They are a different form of false light that gets stuck in your brain matter and is horrible and corrosive. And believe me, I do not make so much money from AdSense on YouTube that it's essential for me to be able to have my videos uploaded there. In fact, if you, this is briefly an aside, but if you want to know why do I stay on YouTube or why do I keep my classes uploaded there, I've been there since like 2008. I really have a very good longevity there, and a lot of my videos go way, way back. So I like to maintain that as a place to keep the consistency of all of these semesters. But I also just want you to know, I really respect if people are trying to avoid false light, avoid technology, avoid all this stuff, read my notes. You don't have to watch the entire video. And also, what I'm going to start doing, which is why I'm telling you about this, is writing out my notes in handwriting. And then I'm going to scan or take a photo of them, because I also do so much with like colors and different ways that I write things and different ways that I emphasize things. I realize that there is not something wrong with me, and that actually the way that my brain and communication works is very good, but all I have to do is use things differently. So be prepared. If you're a part of this class, you'll get my updated notes. I'll send things out, but probably starting next week, it will be in my handwriting. And I think it actually will be good and positive for you. Okay, so all of that being said, going to dive into what I prepared for you today. Updated notes. So much of my work, I use the phrase interchangeably: the sun, sunlight, and light. But it's really essential right now to be able to refocus and distinguish between what I'm really talking about. One is a pure abstraction. There's the pure abstraction of light. That is like a phenomenon that does not have a personality, and not the flawed personality that is also a behavior pattern of the sun itself. So this is a very, very huge distinction. I'm already thirsty. I already have to get going with this. As I'm confronting the sun, and all of you are also confronting the sun, we are confronting a flawed personality, a flavor. So let's talk about the sun and the stars. We haven't done this that much from the perspective of light, but stars, even from the physical sense of what you can see optically, have unique flavors or recipes or proportions of different colors. So for example, in the rainbow, like here I have a rainbow where all of the proportions are equal, but from the light from our star is much more focused towards yellow and green. And there are other stars where the light is more focused towards blue or more focused towards red. It means like there's more flour in the recipe or less sugar in the cake recipe. And this is just to be able to denote that stars are not all the same. They are not all interchangeable. You could consider them to be restaurants of consciousness, or better way of saying it, restaurants of information. I struggle now to use the word consciousness because I call the fabric of time and space, which is something that science recognizes as a thing, the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. But as we're going to be talking about and making a distinction of real light or light that is alive or accurate, there's also artificial light. And artificial light, I'm pointing to my light bulb right now. I am not even so much talking about artificial light, which would be secondary or tertiary, like something that originated from a point of pure consciousness and now has been either stored and re-emitted or temporarily paused on its journey and then emitted in a lower form. That would be, I'll get into this later as we go through this mini course, the concept of combustion, like when you have a candle or a campfire. Those are not artificial light, even though they are secondary or tertiary light, light that has been coalesced into a form of matter, and then at a certain point ignited, like through this miraculous form that we know as combustion, to change matter back into light. Also, just briefly, a lot of what I do in this class, Path of Light, why I like it so much is my goal and what I do, taking you out of the secular and materialistic viewpoint and bringing you towards the phenomenal or the miraculous viewpoint. Because combustion is taken for granted. You're like, yes, I start my stove in the morning where I boil my coffee water. I turn on the flame. And I do this every day. I do this 12 times a day. It's normal for me or anything, in another time, people would light a candle, and that would be an ordinary everyday activity. It is not an ordinary everyday activity. It is miraculous. How about driving your car, an internal combustion engine, a regular ICE engine? That is a miracle. Every day, you've got this form of combustion propelling you, to and from the grocery store or wherever you want to go. Combustion is a phenomenon, and I'm going to talk about some other things that are amazing and not to be taken for granted, like photosynthesis and the metabolizing of glucose within your body. These are all translations where you're going from like one form into another form, and energy and matter are in interrelationship. And they're amazing for us to be able to experience and comprehending that and not taking them for granted. These are part of the directions of both gratitude and empowerment. And my gratitude that I feel and that I would encourage you to feel is not the gratitude of like some I want to like be like some Quasimodo supplicant where you're like, oh, like I'm so small, but I'm so grateful to like some giant anthropomorphized God for being able to make all this stuff. No, the gratitude is much more the sense of being an appreciator of an amazing work of art, like when you walk around and you see the complexity of how the world is formed and the amazing organizational attention to detail in that form. You should be like, wow, this place is amazing. And I am grateful for the incredible artistry that goes into just making a place like this, or even the incredible artistry and innovation that goes into making even something that is the concept of light. Like I joke about this, like who wakes up in the morning and just is like, I think I will invent or innovate something like light. Like this is an amazing thing to do, and this is a reality that we live within. That there is this amazing concept called light that we're in gratitude and appreciating. So let me read more because I think I again I'm good when I actually sit and write. The flawed behavior patterns of the sun. So this is like a faucet that is not functional. The faucet is sometimes on, the faucet is sometimes off. Sometimes the water comes out clear, sometimes it is rusty or non-potable. This is the challenge that you're facing. So ordinarily when I run this class, I put the blinders on and just focus on the miracle of what we're experiencing. And at times that has helped me through, the endurance sport known as life. Especially as we've been cut off from effective connections with certain levels of light or consciousness due to technology and other atmospheric disruptions like 5G and other things like that. So sometimes just focusing on light has been vivifying and also cutting away of the dross and things that aren't important. I'm just bullshit, cutting out the bullshit and focusing on the things that are only important. But we have to focus on why we aren't receiving the correct amount of light, and all of the things that I'm teaching you beyond being just like in wonder of the world around us, which is valid, but also like we need to fix things. It is also geared towards your empowerment about things that aren't right. So I don't want this just to be like a class of abstractions where you're like, ho hum, that's nice. Back to getting fried. No, that is not good. Please internalize and take the points of view and contextualization that I'm able to give you as a visionary, and then apply it to the challenges that you face in your life. So don't just take refuge, get out of bad situations by thinking about abstractions. This is not just a mantra for your cognitive intellect where you can go around musing about things while the world falls down all around you. No, focus is definitely on confronting and changing the negative behavior patterns that are here. So I'm using some analogies to be able to help you get through any confusion. Light is like a water. and it flows either from a well or a stream or something like a hose. But none of these things are the abstraction of water itself. So if the light is water, and the sun is like a well or a tube or something like that, the water actually does not come from the sun itself, but it does come through the sun. And I do often talk about the solar portal. So big takeaway, and just to refocus, because I know I give a lot of words and I just want to refocus and synopsize this. The sun and light are not synonymous. These are two separate things. The water and the garden hose are separate. And the purity of the water can definitely be affected by the container that is flowing through. This is what you've experienced in your world right now with light and with intelligence and with consciousness. Okay, water exists independently of the containers that it flows through, and it is not defined by their characteristics. So the flawed solar personality does not define light itself. This is a big cognitive disassociation or disentanglement now between I always joke like the food and the restaurant that it comes from, or like the milk and the booby that it comes from. Like these two things are very, very, very independent. Light is a miracle. And I always tap the sign. Don't abuse miracles. What does that mean? I acknowledge that there are insane pathogens in our world right now who appear, why are they insane pathogens? We'll talk. It appear to be attacking the purity of light by diluting it with this thing that we have to talk about and acknowledge called false light. But even trying to eradicate light on an existential level. So we have to explore that because this is so far from myself and probably from you as well. I am not an insane pathogen. I am happy to be in existence, and I'm in gratitude for the world that sustains me or the phenomenal existence that I'm able to participate in here. Anything that wants to reduce the availability of or pollute or dilute light is self-destructive, out of gratitude with existence itself, and insane. It's like saying if you are a fish, you swim around in water, why in the world would you want to either destroy that water or remove water from existence? A lot of what the force of ignorance and chaos is trying to do is to eradicate light from our world. And that is an insane thing to do. And it goes hand in hand with technology. These attempts to eradicate light are using technology, which is a type of artificial light or non-intelligence. And also the effects of that would be a total 100% reliance upon technology in order to sustain whatever passes for consciousness or some form of existence. But all of this is in air quotes. And if that sounds a lot like, that sounds a lot like what you, Aurora, were just talking about in your galactic history compendium about what happened on Tiamat, that there's like mainframes or containers for some form of awareness or energy that would be a form of false light. It's all dependent upon technology. So this absolutely, I'm continuing and integrating with those concepts presented in my other curriculum of why in the world would something want to eradicate light on an existential level? Like if the sun is like the restaurant giving you food, and then the sun is either turned off, then all that you have is the available food, and then everybody fights for the scraps. And let's say technology keeps a person imprisoned within that level of reality or within that box or that container. It's a control mechanism. And a lot of the things that I fight against are these control mechanisms. They are anti-freedom, and I am about freedom and your own capacity to do self-determination. But why would you eradicate light on an existential level? That's the real insane aspect of these pathogens. It would be one thing to say, well, I'm turning off the garden hose, and now we only have the water that's in this pool right here. I'm going to be the bank. I'm going to decide if you get any of this water to drink. That's a control structure. We can kind of comprehend those negative motivations. But how about if I say, I'm a crazy person. I'm going to turn off the faucet and I'm going to make it so that there's no more water in the pool at all. Soak it all up, and then you have nothing. And then we all die. And you're a fish. That is bad. Of course, that is bad. And if you ever want to know why, like Aurora, why? I don't have an answer other than some of these things are insane. Just insanity don't hurt your brain any more than just having to know that that's what that is. Okay. Focusing back on the miraculous nature of light. Light is a miraculous or unlikely phenomenon, and it should not be taken for granted or endlessly attacked as if it is some cosmic doormat. No. So in this class, we're going beyond materialism, and we're talking a lot about what light is as self-awareness, self-directed particles, or a phenomenon of consciousness and how that relates to you as consciousness. It should be respected. First of all, it shouldn't be taken for granted because the way everyone is here in the world, they're like, oh yeah, that's the sun. What's the phrase? As reliable as the rising and setting of the sun. Take it for granted. There's going to be plenty of light now, plenty of light tomorrow, plenty of light going on. There's light everywhere, and so much light that's inconvenient. And also the sense of like light as consciousness, light as awareness, light as intelligence. Sorry if I didn't say those words correctly, but light as something that is orderliness. That's a better way of saying it. Light as a principle of orderliness that in this world is really under attack, called the false news, things that are not truthful, but that are presented as truth. That's propaganda and lies, but also scientific or materialistic lies. And those things are corrosive to your viewpoint and also in behaviorally, the way that they are expressed to the structure of reality. Like a lot of people that are acting out of those viewpoints or behaving out of those motivations that arise from that viewpoint, like they are effing stuff up around here, making the place almost uninhabitable. So you cannot simply keep on expecting light to be around if you pee and poop all over light all the time and pee and poop all over the genuine source of light, which is not actually the sun in the sky. It is actually a phenomenon that we know as singularity. I did remember to prepare for class today, and I do have my awesome sculpture over here. But if I hold it in just the right way here so you can kind of like see it against the background where I kind of have my fingertips, that is singularity. And I call it singularity, or you could call it the singularity. But the key point of this is that there's only one of it in existence. And as I get into the real topic of this class and the real curriculum here, it is really based upon that conception. That is where light really arises from or comes through. And that is also where light transits to and through in this beautiful circulation structure of light and consciousness and what it is. But we have to address, so in previous semesters of Path of Light, we have been conveniently in denial and be like, let's not focus on or recognize these other things that are going on. So, but in this class now, this semester, we're going to recognize that there are some blockages or obstacles in the way that light flows through this arena or this architecture. And then there's also something that is constructed or fabricated that would be called false light, that is a false organization or not truthful information. And these are also things where it's like astroturf, like you take fake grass for granted. Technically, it should not be a thing. You shouldn't be like, oh, is this grass real or is this fake? You know, if you're an animal or something where you're like, can I eat it? Is it real? Is it fake? You really shouldn't be in a world where there is astroturf, where there are falsely constructed things that you have to even consider the realness of their reality. Those things and idea structures and edifices should not even really be in existence. Okay. Light is a gift. We should treasure it and protect it and celebrate it. And light, again, is information. What if in my class and any time that I'm talking on these levels, you can replace light with information. So how does this sentence sound if you're like, information or organized intelligence is a gift and we should treasure it and protect and celebrate it? Like that is like saying like, yeah, we should keep information undiluted and not have a bunch of lies and falsehoods and things that should not be said being said. So it is taken for granted that astroturf exists. You live in a world where there's propaganda, outright lies, and a lot of other things. should not take it for granted that those things just exist because you've been exposed to them. I've told you many times about the anecdote, like when I first came here as Aurora, as a walk-in, I was very new, very naive, and I came from the world of Atlantis and from the stellar network, at higher levels, where there is not such a thing as false light. There is not such a thing as lying. Lies were completely new to me as a concept. In Atlantis, it is not that we didn't know about whether lies could exist. We considered it to be such a foolhardy nonsense thing that we would never do it. It would be like if I said to you, my face is made out of purple unicorns. And you would be like, Aurora, that is ridiculous. Your face is clearly made out of flesh. It is not purple unicorns. So here in this world, there is no way for people to check the veracity of certain expressions, and people take it as a truth, and it is not truthful. And then others internalize that truth in subsequent generations as if it is the foundation of reality, and it is not truthful. Let me go back to what I wrote here. Forces of ignorance and also darkness and chaos, which is unintelligence. Like these, I put these things out, and it's like we really need to also examine these words and these concepts. Darkness, the absence of light or absence of order or absence of intelligence, is not the same as unintelligence. Sometimes we talk about forces of darkness like the forces of evil, but please know that, like, here in my room, if I'm going to paint a value study of my room, like areas of light, areas of dark, this is all good stuff, but just areas of light and dark. Very, very different than areas of ignorance, areas of intentional ignorance, areas of intentional ignorance and embraced levels of chaos or unintelligence or lack of orderliness. These are more accurate as to the terms of psychopathology. Psychopathology means diseased thought structure. That is what I'm really deriding here or criticizing here. So going back to talking about light is a gift, and we have to cherish it and protect it. Intelligence is a gift, and we have to cherish it, protect it. Real information is a gift, and we have to cherish it and protect it. Forces of ignorance and darkness and chaos or unintelligence have made the sun, which should be a source of pure truth, like pure water, polluted and corrosive. And the forces of darkness and ignorance and chaos and unintelligence actually arise from the sun itself. So when we also put those word puzzles together, we get the sun as a force of unintelligence created obstacles to intelligence and imposed it upon itself. And this is important for me to give you, as we're going forward. I'm not going to be like a teacher where I say, first, I'll just give you like XYZ at level 1, and then later I will reveal to you this, and then later I will reveal to you this. I'm like, no, I'm giving you everything, even at your level of reading comprehension, which is that there are religious ideations, things on the anthropomorphic level, but then there's also a flaw in the abstraction of the sun itself. And you need this, and you need to know this in levels of, to inform your journey of consciousness to pure freedom, so that you don't think, okay, great, I've conquered like the most, the boss that is in closest proximity to me. Like I've conquered the boss of this level, and then I'm going to graduate to the next level. Then I will fight or confront the boss at that level. And I'm like, no, confront all of these bosses at the same time, because they're actually all the same boss. So the flawed and limited sun emanated and created technology itself, and then created all of these things that distort and limit the amount of actual intelligence and light that we can receive from the sun. And then the offshoot of all of this, I will get to this, is that we are disentangling from the sun. We are still maintaining our allegiance to, or alignment with, or loyalty with pure light. Please keep going. Okay. The information stream that is coming from the sun right now is polluted and corrosive, but don't fall into the trap of rejecting the abstraction of light itself. To do that is to become a vampire, or let's start calling them a creature of stupidity. Yeah, because it sounds a lot less dashing and heroic than a creature of the darkness or a creature of the night, right? Some of this vampire stuff goes a lot on its image. So that's what I'm kind of playing upon there. So we will call them the stupids, the vampires, all right? The stupids reject light. These are organisms or creatures that have become disaffected and don't appreciate the information that is coming from the world of light, which is intelligence. So that is not to go into darkness. That when you reject light, don't go into darkness. You go into stupidity. The stupids reject light. They reject information and intelligence. Yet they parasite off of the intelligence of others, even as they devolve into the inevitability of entropy. And their entropy could take 13 billion years. And that's why I'm here to FRL this thing like faster, faster. Parasiting these, stupids or vampires are parasiting off of the intelligence of others. So in order to examine what I'm talking about here, recognize that you have a soul. Like here, I'm talking to you, the Atlantean remnant, the genuine people with real souls, a real soul, a real sense of divine connection, real inspiration, real information comes into you and to you and through you. And those who have rejected light and rejected the unpolluted source of light still require some amount of light or something that I don't want to say vivifies them, but kind of helps them in their semi-existence, and they get it off of you. And this is industrialized in the technological system that we know as the W-band, where even to the point where you might be the person actually eating physical food and metabolizing it, creating a type of energy, and then that energy being technologically siphoned off of you, energy parasitism. So even beyond emotional parasitism, energy parasitism on a metabolic level, like you're going to eat a bunch of good, whatever, hamburgers and chicken, and then someone else is they're perhaps limiting and denying themselves, and they are going to energetically draw the food from you, not the energy, sorry, not the food itself, the energy of the food. So that is to say, take the life affirmative resources or ability to create that comes as a result of eating food. As another parenthetical reference here, when I talk about what I think is wrong with veganism, I do look at it as a stylish form of self-imposed starvation, and that the problem is it reduces a person's access to the energy of creation. Like light and creation happen as a result of proper nutrition. You have to eat the right thoughts, the right ideas, and the right molecular nutrients. And when people say, I will not eat this, that comes from this source over here, and I'm only going to eat this stuff over here, they're voluntarily giving up the things that they actually need to form basic building blocks for their awareness to go forward. And then it's like saying, I'm trying so hard to be a good person, I'm not going to get my building blocks at Home Depot. I'm not. And then when you're like, well, okay, now it's time for me to build a house called my body. I don't have building blocks. What am I going to do? And then there comes the sense of a necessity of vampirism. Steal it from someone else, get it from somewhere, somehow. And that is the goal of the vampires for the stupids. If they could create a technological enclosure that you could not escape your consciousness and then turn off the faucet of light, and then you would all fight for the last scraps of either light or energy or building blocks for your consciousness to go forward that you should have gotten from Home Depot. But a lot of these guys didn't want to eat meat, didn't want to eat animals, didn't want to get that karmic burden. And then they're all too willing to get the karmic burden of parasiting off of you or destroying your ability to finish the marathon by somehow getting energy from others. Get energy from others because they didn't love and take care of themselves. So believe me, all of those high-minded ethics of karma And but pinkies up considerations of trying to be a good person totally go out the window when a lot of these consciousnesses or people or organisms are actually faced with the realities of their starvation. Truly, 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 truly. Not only physical macronutrients and starvation, which does affect people's mind and their motivation and their self-control, but also energy. Like we're talking about a creative energy and a consciousness that comes from eating properly. And people are literally embracing stupidity by not eating the right amount of nutrients. Then they want to get intelligence from someone else as they did not consume enough intelligence themselves. And the reason why they didn't consume intelligence is reasoning, flawed intellect, flawed intellectual frameworks. They really, really want the nutrients, but and their body says, I'm hungry for nutrients, but their mind says, no, you're not allowed to have these nutrients. And I celebrate when I see videos that are about vegans who resolve their self limitations, never finally eat a rotisserie chicken. It's like they have seen the light. They have seen the light, and the light is protein. So, all of that in order to say that balanced physical nutrition and like having access to resources and having access to light, like these are all the things that we genuinely need as consciousness. And we shouldn't be in self-limitation or self-starvation. We should be in celebration at being able to receive these resources so that we can go forward. Okay. But this is very different. So wait, the stupids, the vampires, they reject light. Why? Why do they do this? Why would they starve themselves or not want to access that? And there are real reasons for this. Light itself, let's say, is uncompromising in its requirements or some of its structures. Like there's not a lot of things that you can do with light when you are utilizing it or accessing it in its pure form. If you want to exploit it or do some other stuff with it, you have to kind of pollute it or degrade it or corrode it in some way. But none of that is what you're supposed to do. All of that I just said is the most out of gratitude behavior in the world. It's like, hi, I'm giving you light. And here's this most amazing phenomenon that contains information and organizational intelligence and principle. And when you put it inside of you, it builds your light body and allows you to go forward eternally. Like, I'm like, this is not good enough for you. Like, I'm kind of being like, whatever, some type of a waitress at the Cosmic Diner. Like, it's not good enough for you. Like, you need extra sauce on top of there somehow. But yeah, no, somehow that is not good enough for them. And some people or organisms or sun stars want to take that original pure light and somehow change it and do something else to it to make it more exploitable. So we have to talk about, I'm not even here yet, the concept of false light, and it does come forward in my notes, but let's just talk about it right now. False light should not be a thing. And that's why when I did Path of Light curriculum in 2022, I didn't even want to have to talk about false light. Like, let's not talk about false light. Let's just talk about real light. Like, I don't want to give a restaurant review of like rat turds. I want to give a restaurant review of whatever, brick oven pizza or whatever is actually on the plate that you're actually supposed to eat. Let me return to my notes here. There's a real problem in the sense of vampires or stupids draining energy that they should not access, that you should access, that you have earned, like that you have been endowed with genuinely. And the problem is energy out of place. You guys might know my little short acronyms from previous classes or whatever. EOOP, EOOP, energy out of place. I didn't want to do rude gestures. Energy out of place. Because when they eat energy that they shouldn't access and then use that to build their light body, then their light body is built out of something that they shouldn't have. So there are two problems here. One is a false light creature that's an aberration that shouldn't exist, consuming real light from you. You're a real light creature. You should exist. That's energy out of place. But then there's also energy that is not true. So light. So I'm really struggling with my vocabulary here. light that is not true light, and that it is uh, diluting the ocean of genuine consciousness. You're totally there with me. You're with me because someone just thought, oh, you mean like AI slop? Yes, I mean like AI slop. So please know that there will be a future, and in the future, historians will look back on the time of like 2020 to roughly now, or maybe into 2027, as a time where you cannot listen to any of the scholarly papers, writings, or really anything of this time because it all is polluted by AI, false light, unintelligence. So that means like supposed scientific achievements, supposed research, supposed mathematical breakthroughs, supposed protein structures or new molecular combinations that could be made, or any of these other things that it is proposed that the AI is thinking up or creating, all needs to be questioned. And then there are so many things that are injections of mistruth into what is supposed to be a reportage of truth. Spoiler alert, what we are going to end up doing is totally triumphing over and superseding the sun as a portal of mistruth, as a portal of untruthfulness, and combining, we will align completely with this world of pure information. And then what we're going to do is go around and make sure that no more misinformation comes forward. Because you can't just say, like, oh, sticks and stones will break your bones, but lies will never hurt me, right? The truth is that lies are corrosive. Lies can be corrosive and dangerous in the sense of Wile E. Coyote in the cartoon series, where he thinks that there's a tunnel there and he can go through, but it's really just a brick wall and he smashes directly into it. Or if you think that there is a perfect road in front of you, it's just a cliff, but there is an illusion in front of your eyes that you think you can go forward, and you walk yourself right over a cliff. These are dangerous illusions and dangerous levels of false light. Also, false light can be like if something is ingredients written on a can, but it's a lie, and it makes you open up and consume the contents of the can, which end up being corrosive or deadly to you because of lies. So illusions and false light can actually be very dangerous and very harmful. And as you are growing in your maturity level as consciousness and you're on this journey, when you get to a certain level, you're going to be like, it is not okay for all this false light to be emanated anywhere. It's an accident waiting to happen. How many of you are parents or caregivers and you think that when you're setting up your household, you're like, let's not get this giant glass coffee table with super sharp edges. I have a 3-year-old. That's an accident waiting to happen, right? It's called being a responsible level of consciousness. Okay, so if vampires or stupids eat energy off of you, we have to send the vampires to entropy, but then we also have to restore the energy because the energy has been propelling them through time to be like a dust particle where they're not supposed to be. You got to clear that out, but then also you got to get back the energy because that energy was supposed to do something much better than propel a piece of consciousness garbage, a dust particle, where it doesn't actually need to be. We need to recover or liberate back to the fabric of space, time, and consciousness, the delayed light, light that was delayed on its journey. So again, very, very different than saying light is photosynthesized and becomes part of a piece of wood or cellulose in nature, and then I burn that through combustion. That is light that becomes matter, but it's not the same as light that is delayed on its journey. And these are fine points and distinctions, but you really do have to notice them. Although both the quality of the light coming from the sun is lower and the quantity of it is also not correct. Its timing and yield times are not correct. That was fast, and I had to go through this again. All right. What is coming off of the sun? The problem is not, it's information, but it's not 100% good information. So let's say the sun is an editor or a publisher giving us a newspaper, the daily news from the sun. And that used to be a good place where you could find out truthful things happening in your community. But at a certain point, it became overrun with either lies or ads or things that aren't supposed to be in there. So that's a dilution of the overall information. Now you read it and you're like, what is this rag? Like, none of this is true. I'm smart enough to know. But then also the quantity of the light that is coming from the sun has been reduced. Maybe you used to get an early morning edition and an evening edition. Then all of a sudden it was just one publication per day. Now you get sporadic publications every couple of days, and that is not correct. So in direct terms, without using analogies, the pulses or the patterns that the sun sends out to us are supposed to have a certain rhythmic quality that is exactly like music. It's one of the reasons why I love music and I embrace my identity as a musician. Music is all about timing, and you really do have to be in the groove and doing things in the right rhythm, in the right pattern for it to be the aesthetic and transportive thing that we genuinely call music. If you don't have the timing correct, then it is noise and it is not good. So please know that both timing, and that includes when I say meal times, like when you are growing as a child or when you are an athlete, you have to have your food at the correct time. Things become irrelevant. If you're like, wow, I want to know about blah, 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 or I need information about blah, blah, blah. And then you get that in 5 years, the insight comes to you. Irrelevant. You needed those nutrients years ago. It didn't help you to propel you down the road. And also with optical brilliance, if you need to be able to see, like, is there a cliff in front of me? This is time sensitive information. You need to know that right now. Don't tell me 5 years after the fact, there was a cliff there. You should not have jumped over it. Okay. This is what is making it so hard for you to truly ascend. It's almost impossible with the diluted light or poorly structured news and editorial content from the Sun, and then also sporadic publications. All of that stuff is supposed to feed your light body. Very, very difficult. And your light body is also related to like your areas of interest. So if right now you have an interest in a particular topic or something like that, and whatever you need, like if you want to learn about knitting and crocheting right now, you're like, I'm interested in this. You need knitting needles and yarn. If you don't get that, then it doesn't matter if you have an interest, like you don't have the materials to actually explore your interest. So all of these things are very timely and very important for your aspects of personal growth. And ascension is like about your aspects of personal growth and about your consciousness. And this is a lot of why I am here, a lot of why I have flying Reba Lasagna into this level of reality, and why I'm giving accurate information. You can see whether you're going over a cliff or not, different things like that. You need help. You need help to be able to do this. So what we are doing together is the greatest unlikelihood by being more organized than the star. So later in this class, I will give you a teaching about the levels of materiality or states of matter, all the way from the densest Bose-Einstein condensate, all the way up through, solid, liquid, and gas, the things that you're familiar with, towards a plasma, which is what the sun and a flame of fire is, and then finally towards a beam of light, like a beam of laser light. Laser light is super coherent, and that is what we are. We are actually more together with attitude. We are more together than the star, all right? The star is all over the effing place. Very unintelligent, and I would say, because when you say chaotic, it almost brings up some like David Attenborough nature documentary where it's like, the uncontrolled chaos of a star. But it's not supposed to be that way. The sun is actually supposed to be like a college professor, not a crazy, chaotic psychopath. The sun is supposed to be intelligent, highly educated, highly structured, and to give forth its information to you as a beginner in a cohesive form. Like, it doesn't help you if you're a beginner and you're given the sheet music to Mozart. It is far too complex for you unless it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Then you're ready to learn at the beginning level. So this is, again, what good parenting is, or good mentoring is, or even being a good gardener. Like when you have a little tiny plant this big and you put it outside, you don't water it with the hose full on. You got to be like gentle sprinkles so that you don't destroy the delicate thing that is forming there in your mind. So please know that so much of the structure here is antithetical to the correct formation of your mind and the correct helping you to grow. So that's why I'm here. All right, so let's talk about this. We are more organized than the star. And in many ways, this is allowing us to supersede the star. we are more intelligent, or we're exhibiting behavior that is more intelligent, more moral, and I'll talk about that, like moral framework, intentions for righteousness and trying to do the right thing, more integrity, meaning no lies. You guys are way more real and authentic than the sun star, which lies a lot. Better math, more accurate, more true emotion. And this is also big. Sun is a huge emotional fraud. And from my experience with you so far, I found you, that's why you're in my class, to be genuine and authentic people, not like lame ass losers and liars. And also, the key point is more genuine as people. So when we look at the personality characteristics of the star, of the sun right now, I am not impressed with that personality characteristic, with the flavor, who that character is. If we're looking on an anthropomorphic level, like a play, who is a character or what is that person like? I am not impressed by them and who they are, being a genuine person. But you should look in the mirror and you should know, you people who are in my group here, you are genuine people. You are more genuine than the sun. The sun is like a person who will lie to get whatever they want from you. That's emotional fraud. Like a person who pretends to be your friend just so that they can get something, whatever, like come over your house for lunch. They don't really like you. They just want your lunch or a business deal or making babies and having a relationship. Like none of that is truthful. You are all people who are truthful, trying to be more truthful, trying to be the epitome of genuine authenticity in the world. And I recognize it's a struggle because like I mean I'm super straightforward with no filter, but I don't really navigate regular reality that much. And I recognize it can be a challenge if you're like very authentic and speak your truth in human reality. You know, like you might not have regular friends and be in regular community because regular human community is based on a lot of lies. All right, but let's go further. It is a coup not in the sense of an action against the state, a coup in the sense of how the Native Americans used to count coup on someone. That is, it means a blow. When you so what they used to do was ride around on horseback, and sometimes they would not kill their enemy. They would just see if they could whack the enemy's horse, like and leave a red mark. It's a coup. Like you did a thing. You're better than them. It's a way of saying I didn't kill you, but I could have better than you. All right, you are better than the star. You are hitting the star's horse and leaving a red mark, being like, I'm more than you. All right. You're a better warrior. You in my class here, you are all going far above your expected comprehension level. And you are going like experts or prodigies, I think is a good description. And you should feel proud and recognition flows to you because you are truly earning or generating your future existence. The sun's narrative is and was to destroy you. And you guys are pesky troublemakers for still being here. So we've traveled the road of time, and there was intention for the sun to at a certain point destroy biological life, and you guys wouldn't have a biological life anymore. And that's it's very easy. Like destruction is pretty easy. Construction is very difficult. So please know that the sun, in its pathology and negative scheming, had an intention for you to have no future, but you're here. And that shows that that narrative is not what is happening. What is happening instead is your self-created, self-generative narrative, where you're like, no, I am not going to go out of existence. I'm going to build a sidewalk for myself, sidewalk out of my own capabilities, my own observership, my own expectation. This is what I mean. Above your technological, above your technical or chronologically based reading comprehension levels. There, so it's kind of like you guys shouldn't know how to do this at this age or at this stage or whatever, but you're like, but we are doing it nonetheless because you have to. So some of it is a little bit tragic. It's like when you find whatever, a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old, and they're like, turning on the stove, cooking themselves some eggs in the morning. You're like, what? This is dangerous. Like, you're using the stove. Why are you doing this? It's like, oh yeah, because mom and dad are passed out on drugs, so I have to take care of myself. Like, it's a little bit poignant like that. But please know that you are brave, noble, and heroic for going above and beyond your capabilities at this level of reality. And again, I am here to help you and encourage you, and recognition flows to you. So don't feel like an abused child, but feel like, yeah, like you guys are definitely doing stuff that's older than you should be able to do, but you're doing it. You're not rejecting all light. And this is an important part of the distinction in your cognitive awareness. If you reject all light, you wouldn't really live. You would be slowly dying, which is what these transhumanists are doing. And it would be a very slow, painful death or like losing of energy and going to entropy in a world that is empty of living light or real consciousness. And when I was writing my notes and I wrote the phrase living light, I'm like, okay, now I have to kind of expositorily describe to you what I'm even talking about here. So real pure light is what I would call living. And artificial light is the non-sustaining, non-conscious, not fully correct optical brightness. There's certainly optical brightness that comes off of a blue screen on your computer or an LED or something like that, but it is not an awareness and it doesn't cultivate your awareness. So a light bulb has optical brightness, but you cannot have a conversation with it. And before I launch into my anecdote over here, when I did Path of Light, the curriculum, it was like at the end of 2021 and 2022. And some of how I got this information was by putting my tendril of attention on a light bulb. Like I did like putting my mind on the sun, putting my mind on the stars, putting my mind on a light bulb, learning about all these things. And then of course I did self-educate about what a fluorescent light is and how it functions. Like I didn't intuit that. But the sense of what nutrition is present in the energy that comes off of a light bulb. And I would not define the energy of secondary or tertiary light that comes from a candle's flame or a light bulb. I don't consider that to be bad, wrong, evil, or corrosive in some way. But things that lie are bad, wrong, evil, corrosive. So when I'm talking about artificial light, I'm talking about something that is constructed or fabricated or comes into being non-naturally. That's a better way of saying it. So with sunlight, like you've got like the original wheat germ, then it's ground down to flour, processed and then made into something that you're eating. But that's very, very different than something that is like synthetically built or replicated in a type of food that has no provenance or causal structure. So what the sun did in this solar system as it went insane was to first create something that is an artifice that should never be thought about, a form of artificial thought or a original wrong thought that is called technology. You take it for granted because it's such a part of your existence and is required to sustain you in the degraded form that you're in. But technology should not exist. And you will also, at a certain point, travel the cosmos looking for any tiny amounts of technology that are coming forward and smashing them out. Like, you're not allowed to exist. Get out of here now. Because the truth is that technology is an aberration. And it also is a catch-all for the causality structure. And you're like, well, how could that happen? Oh, technology. Technology is like the magic wand. Like, oh, they invented a magic wand and then anything was possible. That is not supposed to happen. These limitations that occur in the structure of the natural world are there for a reason. Like, you're not supposed to be able to have a face that is made out of 12 purple unicorns. You're supposed to have a face that is made out of flesh for a reason. And the arbitrary nature of what has been able to be created by the sun using technology, via Tiamat, via Mars, via the small g gods on Mount Olympus, and then into the crushing, erroneous world of mortality that you presently experience. And let me also make a distinction that the world of mortality is not the same as the world of materiality. We experience materiality in beautiful Atlantis, and matter is the mother that holds our consciousness. But we're not in this flawed layer of reality where death is considered inevitable or a foundational aspect of your experience of materiality. So, materiality is not the same as mortality. And the realm of mortality was created through technology. And technology is not something that should ever exist. It's like saying the thing that shouldn't exist. If we replace the word technology with, oh, that was made possible by the thing that shouldn't exist, then our whole narrative structure and cognitive framing goes differently. Okay. Well, I had a different anecdote that I want to tell you, but I want to also go with this anecdote that I have written down here. I remember when I was here in 2006 to 2011, that was when I lived in Woodstock, New York. And I remember being able to have a whole conversation with the sun. And that was, of course, before any of these 5G satellites went up. It was largely before the worldwide cell phone tower network went up. I could tell you many stories around the campfire of what my life felt like in Woodstock, like let's say circa 2005, 2006, because even though there were cell phone towers in New York City at that time, there were not towers where I lived in the mountains in upstate New York. And my world felt very magical. And when I say magical, I mean my wishes and my desires were connected to reality. And sometimes I would receive, much like my time in Ojai before Ojai became diminished by 5G, my wishes were granted. Like you do a good thing for someone else and you get reward, but not like in a evil training way, just in the way that like there's cause and effect, results as an experience of that. And magic, not in the sense of evil manipulation using spells of other people, but supernatural causality structures. And then when the cell phone towers turned on, these supernatural causality structures definitely went down. And also the natural telepathy totally went down. Wait, I should emphasize this more. And this is not really part of my class, but this is just something you guys need to know. So many of you aren't even remembering what this was like, or maybe you're extremely young, but I used to live in a place, Woodstock, where if you wanted to know where your friend was, like you didn't call them on the phone, you reached out with your mind. If you're like wanting to hang out or have a magical adventure, you didn't call them on the phone. You were like, where is my friend? I need to know where my friend is. Are they at this place? And you kind of reach out with your mind. You're like, no, they're not there. Are they at this place? No, they're not there. Oh, I think maybe they're at this place. And you go to that place. You don't call them on the phone. And then when you go to that place, you're like, hey, I was looking for so-and-so. Is so-and-so here? And your friend is like, no, they're not here, but they were just here. Let's go find them together. You're like, this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. And I used to have the most magical, or let's say supernatural, phenomenal flow of my day going through these different experiences and activities. And it always ended up like you would get what you would receive what you were looking for, but sometimes from unusual or unlikely ways. And there was an aesthetic presence to doing it in this way also. And then I remember when there was a cell phone tower erected in like 2006 or so around Woodstock, everybody all of a sudden could get their signal and they could talk on the phone. It wasn't just the convenience of being able to speak through the phone. The phone diminished the natural telepathy. And it wasn't possible to just reach out with the tendril of your mind and be like, where's my friend? Or send them a message and be like, hey, like, come over here. We're having a get together and you should come over here and be here. Like that was no longer available. And then, so it wasn't like people could make a choice that was no longer on the menu. It wasn't just that people went with the technological convenience of having now a phone. It was that the other option was no longer available. And now you have to take that experience and fractally magnify it, because that's what's really happened in our world over the past several decades. Natural causality structures have been almost eradicated, even including like the metabolism of your body. And all of these things have been signals artificially controlled and routed by technology, which is less intelligent than the natural world. This is all like bad stuff. Okay, but bad anecdotes abound. I'm making you feel bad here. Sorry. I used to be able to not only be telepathic with my friends, I was telepathic with the sun. And the levels of conversation that I had with the sun were valuable. I got a lot of my ideas for a lot of my paintings by talking to the sun. That doesn't mean that the sun told me, make this part blue, make this part blue, make this part red, do this like this. No, not at all. It's just like when you go to a restaurant, you eat food and then you're like, I'm energized. Now I'm going to go out and run a marathon. The chef does not control your feet and make you like move your feet, but the chef is directly responsible for the food that motivated you to be able to run the marathon. The sun is the chef. I used to be able to connect with the sun effectively. I got ideas, energy, and abstract guidance. And then it was up to me what I did with that. And this is always truthful. You're the athlete. You make the actual choices and you must take responsibility for the things that you've made. So if the painting looks good or the painting looks bad, it's up to me, the artist, not the sun, not the chef who gave me the ideas or the energy. But the restaurant was a good restaurant. But in my disappointment now, I don't have to give up all of that food and all of the muscles and structures of my body that I built using that food. So let me read it from you here. So I received a lot of genuine, pure, abstract information, which I expressed in my paintings and sculptures of that time. And it's important to note that the information from the sun now has totally degraded. And we accept that in maturity, but like a restaurant that once was good, and now the food is not good quality or too much money, or maybe it once a river with water that flowed and it was pure, but now it is polluted. The light used to be good and it built my body, built my light body. And those concepts and what I learned remain with me. So I don't have to throw everything in the bin. I don't eradicate it or remove it because the solar conduit went downhill. That was good source of information then. Now it is no longer a good source of information. But you can and you should reassess everything that's in, let's say, in your closet or retry on your clothes. You should try things on. You should see what still fits. You should see what concepts you've ingested and what how it relates, whether it is still valid, whether it was valid in the beginning. But you should not throw everything away because you're now distancing yourself from or divorcing or ending the relationship with the personality of the sun. That's a critical infrastructure. And we're going to talk about this too. Your pineal gland and the crystals in your pineal gland. Should you tear it out of your head, throw it back at your whatever, you're getting divorced, be like, take that ring, or you're take the engagement ring back. Like, no, you should not do that. The truth is that your insights, information that you've received, things that are the building blocks of your life body, you earned them and you should maintain them. They are a part of the foundation of who you are, but you should reassess whether you ingested things that were lies as if they were truth. You should reassess as, did it fit then, but it doesn't fit me now? And then you should throw out anything that's no longer relevant. And that might be religious ideation or things that were analogies that helped you to get leveraged up to a higher vantage point. But now that you're at a more sophisticated vantage point, they are no longer relevant. Yeah, you're ending the relationship. But the key point is, what is next? You're not going to reject all light, just, becoming a vampire or stupid. You're not going to feed off of others. That's what happens when people go into that level of like self-death. If they cut themselves off from light, from the source of information and intelligence, it is like that's the moment that they really die. And then everything else is them just trying to like sustain their semi-existence somehow. So you're not going to have, oh, this is big, a sudden blackness in the sky, as if the optical brightness would just suddenly go away. This is a childish fear or concern, but it's very valid. What if you distance yourself from the sun, the taking for granted of the sun, the rising and setting of the sun? Oh my God, what if I don't have the sun? People might be afraid of a cessation of optical brilliance, that there would be darkness and also the stars. Would it be a blackness? Or would we have to deal with its sucking void? Like the sun isn't there anymore. There's just a giant gaping hole in reality, like some kind of a black hole. Those things are not going to happen. But I'm here to reassure you. I'm here to like not make fun of your fragility that you're worried about that. It's like, this is the only restaurant that you've ever eaten at. And I'm telling you, the Board of Health is closing it down and that you've been eating rat turds for a certain amount of time. And you're like, oh no, like, I know it's not a good restaurant, but what are we going to do? Worried about that. I don't think that that is fair. Here's what is going to happen. We are going to supersede the sun and its personality and its gatekeeping and its limitations. You're going to connect to the pure intelligence patterns of light as it flows through your environment. So this is important. Light doesn't just flow in a beam from the sun to you. Because we are very optical creatures and we are really looking at light as if it is a glowing presence. And considering that light is flowing from the sun and through the environment, and it allows you to see different things. Light is innate to the structure of reality. It's in the structure of body. It's in the structure of your metabolism. It's in the structure of water. It's in information. Let me read from this. The patterns of light as it flows through your environment. Let's read it as patterns of intelligence or patterns of organization as they flow through your environment. That ocean of light or intelligence connects you directly to follow the music as an individual musician, independent from the bad band leader that the sun is or has become. And you go forward as individuals in the cosmic symphony. So you're not going to be like, you were part of a band, the solar system, and the solar system band leader, went insane or went on drugs or something like that. And now that you would go over a cliff because you're on the same tour bus as this bad band leader. That does not have to happen to you at all. You can be an individual. And this is the level of prodigy, leveling up and maturity that is impressive and maybe beyond what others would expect as possible, but it's totally possible. You're like, yeah, I am not with that guy. I'm not with that guy. I'm an individual on my own. To emphasize again, you're going to go forward as individuals in the cosmic symphony. That is big. That means, let's say your band leader was like, we're in the key of G. And you're like, you're not in the key of G. You're playing in C. And you play what you know is right. This takes an enormous amount of inner strength. You are going to be judged and assessed for the worthiness of your existence based on your own merit, not based on being a group that is affiliated with or emanated from or part of the sun and the solar system. So as I do psychic battle with the sun and its insane psychopathic characteristics and embodied people, there are moments when I clear out the garbage and then I just get the optical brightness and warmth that's coming from the sun right now. And it feels nice and there's no corrosion. So this is my energetic weather report at the moment. I've reported to you about how I feel 5G, what I've felt since 2020, how difficult it is at times to be able to even be outside. Like the 5G, I feel is like a lens. First, it is a blockade that blocks out light, both consciousness, optical, and frequency. Then it also at times lenses or distorts what is coming in. And sometimes just like you can fry an ant with a magnifying glass, sometimes the lens that the 5G dome creates fries you and me like ants. That is all very, very unpleasant and, absolutely unsustainable. But when I at times break the 5G lens, and I've been doing pretty well with that by using my psychic warfare. What ends up feeling in those moments is like, it doesn't feel like 2006 or 2011. It doesn't feel like there's a person there that I'm talking with. I'm happy because the person that has been there has been an insane psychopath, but it does feel like there is light that I can see and warmth that I can feel. And the warmth feels nourishing and good on my sun, so on my skin rather. The light feels nourishing and good on my skin, similar to the way the sun felt to me in around like 2017, before the eclipse that we had across the United States in 2017. And I think these eclipses have been like demarcations of like badness. Things got worse with many of these eclipses. So I'm happy to report that there is a way for us to live. You won't have a sucking black hole in the sky. You won't have complete blackness. You will still have something that is bright that you can use to see in the world and that feels warm to your skin, because these are all things that are supportive to the environment. but you will not have the consciousness, psychopathology, or personality characteristics. So this is a big change in the expectation because I've done a lot to um, not indoctrinate, but like give you the expectation that you're talking to the sun is alive, you're in a collaborative call and response to the sun, and that you're giving the sun feedback on your life, and then the sun is collaborating with you by sending out improved or updated timelines or reality possibility structures. And that is not the dynamic anymore. That dynamic was so flawed that we, as the musicians in the band, were receiving a lot of flawed directives from the sun. And we were like, this is the sheet music. Like, imagine that you get to the symphony. Okay, this is us. We're in the band. We get to the symphony hall. We all get our sheet music in the day, and we're like tuning up our guitars and our violins, and we're looking at it. We're like, this is the sheet music. Like, this is what we're supposed to be playing. This doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem good. And then slowly coming to the comprehension that we have to not follow these directives, but be able to recognize that there's something wrong with the organizer of the band. And now what we're doing is like turning off the Xerox machine that makes the sheet music. I have a better analogy. My analogy failed, but you understand what we are doing. We are not playing according to that emanator of music. But that doesn't mean that there isn't an organizational principle. There is, but we're not getting our sheet music from that guy anymore. I think that made you more confused as opposed to gave greater levels of clarity. But we are not receiving our directives from the sun. That is very big. So for me, I used to receive both abstract energy information, like about what proportions of color to use and other things from the sun. And then I would do them. Oh, and then I would go back to the sun. So like in the morning I'd sun gaze, blah, 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 do my paintings and other things. And at the end of the day, sun gaze and abstractly present what I did to the sun. And so much of what I teach in my class is about not achieving a huge accumulation of backlog, but to live stream to the sun, ostensibly so that the sun can improve your life. The whole entire back and forth relationship and rapport, and even as I described to you at Path of Light, is meant to be you're receiving information, processing it, sending an updated response like sonar about what's going on in your environment back to the sun. And then in good faith, the sun is supposed to change stuff. Like if we are the musicians, we don't like what is happening in reality. We are supposed to reflect that back to the sun and say, bad stuff is happening right now. For example, bad satellites are being put up in our sky right now, and it's hurting baby ducklings. I'm sending that back to you, giant sun. And then, you can change it and make it better. And the sun didn't change it and make it better. So when I show you the animation, as we start to get into the Path of Light stuff, there's these different loops that come out that are time potentials that are made by the sun. And then they collapse back in as we relate to those time potentials. But the sun is supposed to be trying to give us the correct potentials. Like if I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. Give us different notes. And I send it back. The sun is supposed to be like, oh, you mean like this? And it should be better, not worse. Somewhere along the line, recently, like within the past, 21 or 25 years, the sun decided to totally ignore our feedback. Be like, hey, like, we're getting fried by 5G over here. Do you think you could stop this? And the sun is like, no. And that's a betrayal of the role that the sun is supposed to play. It's supposed to be like, if you are in peril and you're going to go over a cliff, you get information out to the sun like SOS, something is happening, fix it. And the sun is supposed to really love and care about you. Be like, oh, a piece of me is about to die horribly in a car accident. Let me fix things immediately so that I don't die. And all of the responsibility was put on the human. Like, oh, the sun would have totally stopped you from going over a cliff and dying horribly if only you hadn't been verbalizing so much and you could connect your mind to the sun. Be like, hey, blah, 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 fix things immediately. Like the sun would surely do it. I think we cannot expect that level of relationship. If we ever had that level of relationship, perhaps there was animosity or veiled animosity from the beginning, but there is outright animosity now, where you can say to the sun, hey, like we're getting fried by 5G, it's hurting you, me, and baby ducklings. And the sun will be like, shove it. Like, I don't effing care. I'm doing what I want to do. This level of inattentiveness is what we have to recognize and reject and confront, because that's not what is supposed to happen. We're in a rapport where we are physical biologicals, and we're supposed to talk to the sun and be like, hey, like this stuff is not life affirmative. I'm a biological creature. Fix it. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. And I think now we have to recognize there's been not good faith, not fixing of the peril that would make us die. We are self aware, trying to get ourselves away from the membrane of death. The sun is not responding to us. This is a foundational problem. Can't go forward in a relationship that is like that. And so what we must do is take away the power of reality control or reality influence from this inattentive or malignant or outright malevolent sun, and return it and restore it to ourselves. So that is what we are going to do. And that means that you will still have optical light, like you'll still have the abstraction of light, energy, information, warmth, but you're not going to have the sun telling you what to do. And this is actually very, very positive and good. And it is totally in alignment with your levels of development, even though chronologically you might not be that old, but that is what you need for right now. And so it's kind of like, yeah, like when young people are emancipated or something like that, it's a valid analogy. So when we are fully victorious over the sun, it will not disappear. We will not live in darkness. We will not be in ignorance. We will not be vampires. Just like when I say that, live in ignorance or live in darkness, you're like, oh, like dark ages, the dark ages and worse. So the dark ages are like the year 1000 AD, up to like whatever, 15 or 1600. The dark ages, that was when they had the Inquisition and people were like burning witches. And the church was a horrible agent of darkness. And they told people to wear long underwear, like sew themselves into their long underwear and like never wash. Put on this clothing, be totally disassociated from your body and your body processes, never wash. That's like the worst advice. And that is the epitome of darkness, anti-intelligence, things that are anti-intelligent, even to what you would call common sense of care and feeding of a biological body. You all know you need to wash. I could do all sorts of Monty Python. I'm not going to get silly. In the sky, we will have optical brightness and warmth to sustain our biological environment, not just you. You need light and warmth, but also plants, nature, chihuahuas, the patterns of intelligence that are going to dictate our reality going forward come from us. They come from us or arise and are motivated from us, but they also come through us as you have a connection to divinity and to the source. And they also come from larger scale levels of organization and intelligence. So when I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance on Tuesdays as a group with people, I describe to you how when you're in your dance, you're a tiny piece of time and you are dancing amidst or in a sea of time and possibilities and probabilities. And that the larger scale of organizational principle in that intelligent realm, which looks just like my drawings here and everything, that at times can help to guide you if you don't know where you're going or what you're doing as a tiny little thing. And that is okay. Like you can be a tiny red blood cell amidst the circulatory system of a much, much larger being. And there are times when you might be confused or whatever, stuck in a capillary somewhere, and you're like, I don't know where to go. But the blood pushes you along and the flow of energy brings you to where you're supposed to go. And that's because you're part of something larger. So that's a positive organizational principle that is larger scale than you, exhibiting intelligence, and we would also call it divinity. It's like positive, loving, it's yourself. It's your true self. And this thing that has been the sun, you guys understand it. It's what you call demiurge, fake God, small g God. Wait, one more thing. There will be coherence and a strong system, not an end to light, or the lights going out as a metaphor for the end of awareness. So when people talk about what is death, they talk about it as like the lights go out. When people talk about having an idea in your mind, they talk about the lights going on. So when we are talking about larger scale of intelligence, helping to propel you or guide you where you're going, and you will have more information and more intelligence as a result of your navigation through time. You will continue and have, like I said, a strong system. This isn't an end or a death. And I often talk about coming out of like the corpse of the United States or this old dead economic paradigm or old dead belief system or contextual reality. That thing is the thing that is actually dying. And you guys are actually alive. You don't belong in the corpse or feeding off of that corpse or stuck in that. And when I say United States, like that really is the empire that has been running the global resource system here. But you're not going to be a part of that empire, whether you are in United States or in a different nation state right now. The United States, the United States, the supremacy of the United States dollar and the economic system and the currents of the flow of energy and resources that have been dictated by the United States, that whole entire narrative and story is bye-bye. The lights are going out in the light of awareness is going out in the corpse and corporation of what you know as the United States. But that is not the lights going out in the entire system. So this is to reassure you, as you might have been concerned about, like, will I get sucked into a black hole? Will I have no money? Am I going to have food? Am I going to be alive? Who's going to take care of me? These are all to address those very genuine concerns. And then I also have to talk about false light, because we are not actually supposed to have false light. You are not supposed to have rat turds on your plate at the restaurant. You're supposed to have delicious food, whatever's your favorite food, French fries. No, the only type of light that is supposed to exist is true light, truly nourishing light. False or artificial light, light from the sun, false light from the sun or from anywhere should be actively eradicated. The analogy that I skipped over, but I have to emphasize, is editorial control in a newspaper. You don't just get to say anything you want, and definitely not if you are in the position of authority and responsibility when you are an editor of a newspaper. So you're getting the daily news coming from the Sun. There's also an editor that is adding things to it, creating libel, not even satire. It is not in the comics section, writing false news as if it is true. This goes against the parameters of the position of being an editor. You know, it's different than being a fiction writer. If the Sun wanted to be a fiction writer, that would be different than the responsibility of being a news editor. And what we need to do is recognize that that activity is an inherently antisocial or corrosive activity, and we cannot allow it to go forward. So this does relate to what you're experiencing in your present world, where you've got different forms of social media and also different self-elevated voices and platforms where people are like, it's a free world. I can say whatever I want, and I can emit outright lies about people or about situations or about propaganda viewpoints of what the government is doing or other things. There's a false assertion of the entitlement to be able to emit falsehoods. And that's like social lies. And then there's also the AI, which is insane, that emits, bad information, like an Amazon book about mushrooms, gathering, foraging for wild mushrooms by AI, your handbook to being poisoned on Amazon. You got it, guys. The malevolency of putting false information into the world. So there's the editorial concerns of saying things that aren't truthful just about people, shaping social reality and limiting or shaping social dynamics as a result of that. Then also poisonous mushroom field guides. All has to be eradicated. You can't do that. If your job is to create a field guide to eat wild edible mushrooms, and you say whatever, like the poison skullcap mushroom is perfectly safe, like that is against your job. You can't have that job, and that cannot be a book on the shelf. People will die. The Sun cannot have its job if it is an editor of the news and it is sending out slander and lying about people. And it lies about you all the time. One of the lies that the Sun sends out about each one of you is that you are an ordinary mortal, like not Superman, Clark Kent. The Sun is sending out lies that's like, you are an ordinary mortal. One day you will die. Your body is weak and frail. Give up hope and surrender now. And all of those things aren't truthful. I spent a lot of time clearing those lies out of myself and also out of my dog, out of the planet, out of the people that I work with and help in sessions. Because the truth is that you are divine and miraculous and have enormous potentials, even in the materialistic and cellular aspects of yourself, and that you are a superhuman and that you do have amazing qualities. Um, so if the Sun had any decency, it would be horrified by its misuse of resources. Like if the Sun were an active editor curating the newspaper and found someone who was like writing a bunch of lies, be like, take that pen out of your hand immediately. Wait, put this down like this. Take that pen out of your hand immediately. Like, you're fired. You're not allowed to do that. If the Sun had any decency, the Sun has no decency. And also the Sun is doing this on purpose. Okay. So you have to understand this. The Sun is not innocent. The Sun created the technology specifically to create and emit false light. And this is not the same as a campfire or a candle. I've already talked to you about that. But this is the artifice of Mars and the illusion that came from that level of reality, not just a diluted or fraction of real light. That would be like if you took me, my face, but I only showed you like a little bit of my face. That's a portion of reality, but this is a complete fabrication, something that is not me at all, a total fabrication. That's fabrication of genetic structures, personalities, and even body parts. That is the type of thing that should never be done. That is the type of thing that was facilitated with technology. That is the type of thing that the Sun created the technology to do. So it's not sad that its resources are being misappropriated or horrified by its underlings acting badly. This is from the top down, from the Sun. And that's why I bring this up so that you don't feel like, oh no, like we just completed like, going against the Antichrist or like some, flawed Jesus religious figure and got him out of the way. But now I have to deal with his father, the Sun, the Father who art in heaven. Like that's what we're talking about, like the demiurge or the archons or the false god that even created the religious ideation and religious structure. Let's do it all at once. Let's do it all at once. Let's not do this painful thing. And you guys are definitely up for it and ready for it. Okay, so wait. So that was just my intro, and I know that it's already been like an hour and a half. Now we need to look at questions and comments that people are saying. Wait, start with this one. Go back to the beginning. Len says technology causes people to not drive when a red light turns green, which reminds me of blood clots in a human body, just more stoppage instead of flow in the greater body. I also had the thought that sunlight and fire is constant. Artificial light flickers and trains our brain to tap out at its frequency. So first, let's talk about technology delineating the flow of anything, like the way red light stop, green light go. We should be flowing through our day as primal humans. When I talk about the idealistic experience that I had in Woodstock before the cell phones were put up, I want you to know, like, we were all starving artists. We were not, or mildly malnourished artists. Rich people, like, living a life of relaxation. Please know that that's not what our lives were like. Like, we all had to work at jobs and hustle and do all sorts of different things to make ends meet. But there was freedom in the way that our day was structured, that I remember feeling that level of freedom go away. And when I came into California and they turned on 5G, I still had like that level of flow, a natural flow. That freedom is like doing this and then doing this. In 2019 and 2020, when they turned on 5G, that flow state ended for me. And it was replaced by a machine mind or an artificial way of being able to say, you are scheduled for this moment, and you are scheduled for this at this moment. The nanotechnology connected to 5G and the W band artificially um, organized human behavior, like red light stop, green light go. And it has continued as the 5G became ubiquitous and directly connected to some human neurology. So I'm sometimes very put out by the delivery people that come to deliver things here. I'm happy to receive in gratitude whatever my art supplies that I'm ordering through the mail. But what I don't appreciate is the delivery drivers at this point are 100% nanotechnology, vaccinated, hydrogel people. And then they have, a little like cell phone or clipboard that tells them where to go at what time and what they need to do. Same thing with like an Uber driver, a person who receives all of their behavioral dictates of where they need to be, what they need to be doing, and who they need to be doing it with or to from the computer. And this is some dark stuff. So gather around, children, while I sit in my rocking chair and tell you tales of what workplaces used to be like before Uber Eats and a cell phone telling you what to do. So this also is like before GPS, when you had to read a map and remember where you were actually going. Oh my goodness, all the way back in the day. But with GPS and people whose brains are connected to technology, it is easy to make a red blood cell be someplace at a certain time doing a certain thing that can either help another person's life or mess with their life. So if you have been a victim, have you been a victim of gang stalking? Better call Saul. Have you been, like, I'm joking there, I'm getting silly. Have you been a victim of gang stalking? That is when it seems like, how can these delivery drivers all converge at the same moment, trying to disrupt my life when I'm just outside trying to, do a particular thing. And it might seem like that's so paranoid. Like, how can they all get coordinated? It's easy when their brains are connected to a type of overarching unnatural technology. So you're supposed to be connected to the mind of God. You're natural, beautiful, divine, and loving, and highly intelligent organizational principle that makes you go places in the same way that a school of fish knows where to go. Flocks of birds know where to go. Flocks of humans should know where to go. You shouldn't be remote controlled, but humans have been indoctrinated and filled with technology to do that. This goes back to, galactic history style, the origins of human civilization. There was a time when you, as the primal human, listened to the dictates and requirements of your own body metabolism, your own inner drive for survival, your own inner appetites, and again, your freedom of self-direction. Like the primal human doesn't just try to get food to stay alive. The primal human also does do aesthetic expressions, things that are for fun and for pleasure. Something, like if you feel like going swimming or you feel like running for pleasure. The primal human does that. Not everything is focused on mere survival. But when money was invented and introduced as a type of technological control structure in human sociology, people stop directing their day according to what they think is correct. And even if you have tasks that need to be accomplished in your agrarian society, if you're moving from hunter-gatherers and flowing in each moment to agrarian people who plan, even when you plan, you're like, well, maybe I feel like harvesting some wheat right now, or maybe I feel like grinding some wheat right now. I'm working for me. I'm the boss of me. I'm going to do what I think is right. But at a certain point in the complexity of what you know as human civilization, there became overlords and bosses who would pay you. Come over here and work for me in the grinding mill for this amount of time, and I will give you this amount. And they go, wait, I want to go swimming. I don't want to work as a sweat hog in the grinding mill right now. You will not get paid. Go swimming. You will starve. And then there's the sacrifice of self. The sacrifice of self, of your own inner directives and what you really want to do and who you really want to be in order to get paid. get that one, stay alive. So these are all different forms of technology, behavioral control, and it is time to like throw all of them off of you, like peels of rust or corrosion that fall off of the surface of you, revealing, your original true self inside of there. It's sad because for many people, they can't even remember or never constructed their true natural behavioral patterns. I'm an artist. I definitely constructed and knew my natural behavior patterns, and my challenge has always been like how to live and earn money even while doing my natural behavior patterns. Going forward, this will be non-negotiable, and we are going to be confronting whatever is the origin of human civilization or limiting factors that would ever want to take you away from your natural behavior patterns. The truth is, you should be sustained instead of saying get paid. You should be sustained in your natural behaviors. Your natural behaviors are good enough. Shouldn't have to work at the threshing mill so that way you can get money, because it's not good enough for you to simply stare at a cloud or swim in the river or do whatever you do, paint a painting as a form of self-expression. So the red blood cells are not only told to turn left or to turn right, sometimes they're told to do a strange little dance by technology that's totally not something they would ordinarily do. A big part in the adoption of technology over the past 20 years or so that I've witnessed here as a world, like as I've been here in this physical embodiment, has been the accommodations we have to do to technology in order to use it. So it used to be like, oh, like if this, like you want to do a thing online, like whatever, I want to buy a new pencil online, but in order to do so, like you want me to create I got to log in. I got to create an email. I got to create a profile. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to press this. I got to press this. I would be like, forget about it. I'm going to the store, that's whatever, half a mile away. And we're just going to buy my pencil there because I don't want to have to jump through all of these technological hoops to be able to access this. But at a certain point, humans became trained, domesticated, and indoctrinated so effectively that now you're like, oh, yeah, like I need to buy some new pencil erasers or something. So first I'll have to do is get my login. Then I have to do my two-factor authentication. Then I'm going to have to recover this password. Then I'm going to have to update my OS. Then I'm going to have to do this and this. Then after I have a face scan and also a thumbprint scan, and then several other interpretive dances later, then I will finally be able to do this thing. And you do it because people have been domesticated at this point to expect that you will have to jump through hoops to access technology. You work for technology as opposed to technology working for you. And that's a total jujitsu flip that has happened on humanity that's not positive and not good and not empowering over the past let's say 5 or 10 years or so. All right. So you're very correct on the flicker rate of artificial light harming people's view of real reality because there's not a consistent state. Your brain is having challenges neurologically integrating with whatever is the flicker rate. So for LEDs, it's a particular frequency. And also for the computer screen, it's a particular frequency. And for TVs, it's a particular frequency. So none of these are positive or life affirmative, and they create a type of cognitive dissonance where you're like, I want to do this and this and this, but this flicker rate is making my brain just try to have to do something different. So here are some things that are helping. Like one thing that's helping me a lot is I no longer now try to compose what I'm writing on the computer. I'm like, I thought really that there was something wrong with my brain. I'm like, how come I can't think when I'm trying to like make a sentence structure on the computer? Got a pen and I'm writing on a pen and I'm like, I can compose a sentence structure. This is easy. And then I can input it like a data, processor, like a secretary, that I can just type it all out after I do the actual construction. So I think there's really something in taking away from our ability to express ourselves when we're either touching the keyboard, connecting to the computer flicker rate, or amidst the LEDs. And I don't have LEDs in my house. I use only the incandescents. And the incandescents, I'll get them like cheap online thrift store type of place, dead stock and stuff like that. But I also found a place that's called Strainless Lighting. And all of their light bulbs, you can tell when I when I have the blinds closed. It's very orangey, but I don't mind. They are very, please know that they are more expensive than regular light bulbs. They last longer. They don't have the flicker rate. They're genuine incandescents, and they emit like a very warm, orangey, peachy type of color. And I think that that is like the only good type of light that is coming out of artificial things. Okay, let's also talk about another thing that people are doing is going back to the cathode ray tube or lower tech TVs, not the LCD, not the super bright, like lit from behind type of artificial flat. No, people are moving away from the modern flat screens and using older stuff, and then also moving away from streaming um, in order to be able to access it and just watching things that were pre-recorded, you know, that you've got on a thumb drive or on your CD. I think all of these things help us to not be entrained to that frequency that is an unnatural frequency, if you even need to or want to, you know, have that level of distraction that's going on. Okay, so wait, and fantastic comments. Thank you for your presence and for your intelligence. Charlie B says, very good point about the arbitrary nature of technology. And wait, and also you something, let me just hold on a second. I lost my batteries to my thing, so I have to press this button manually down here. Hold on, technology is making me squash on down. I'm going to do this. Hold on one sec. Sorry, I'm off camera. Yeah. That will be good for another hour and a half. Okay. Arbitrary nature of technology. Engineers absolutely know this. Technology is arbitrary in its design, construction, and evolution, and in how it is applied. Its use results in arbitrary and anomalous societal changes and behavior that are often anti-life distortive nonsense. You're totally with me on this. In contrast, nature is not arbitrary in establishing behaviors, thought structures, and value systems that are pro-life and pro-longevity. Absolutely. So really good viewpoint and reflection from someone like you who is very much involved with the world of technology. Okay, Lan says, is the sun's lack of reality editing due to humans' lack of direct communication with it? First, I'll respond and I'll say, right now, the sun as a band leader is kind of like, screw you, musicians. I don't care what you're saying to me, because the sun is sending out insane directives to us as musicians that are pretty much like, you know, get destroyed. Let me incinerate you. And I'm like, I'm not playing that music. Nobody play that music. Nobody play that song. We need to confront the band leader right now. So if I have already done this, I'm like, this is me. Is this your sheet music? This is bad stuff. We're not doing this. And the sun is like, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. I'm crazy. I'm insane. I'm like, okay, we're not politely confronting the sun. We can pretty much presume that it's become an insane criminal at this point. She goes on to say, not everybody knows we are able to speak with the sun. Also, we are groomed to normalize our flawed systems, so we don't think to ask for something different. Or is it a majority rules thing? The sun doesn't hear one person's prayer. He needs a majority vote or what gets its attention. Let's talk about democracy. Democracy is not what we experience in terms of consciousness and the like emissions of your mind. Think of it like a voice. Some people have a voice like an opera singer, and they are loud with no amplification. I will tell you, I am not a highly trained opera singer, but I'm a very loud singer. And oftentimes, like if I sing in my house, sing along with the radio or whatever, I know the neighbors can hear me. One time, whatever, I finished a song and someone two doors over, they were clapping for me. But I'm like, I know that that's unusual. Hold on a moment. I'm going to refocus and think about what you're talking about. Loud minds are loud because they're coherent. They are loud because their math is correct, and because that correctness reverberates outward and keeps going. And if you have a loud, correct mind, you should have more of an impact on reality than someone who has a very wimpy, incorrect mind. The voice of their mind in terms of reality, influence, and structure should not be loud because they are crappy and not good at what they do. When you are cognitively capable and creating good architecture and creating um, correct intellectual frameworks, you should have a loud voice, and also you should be an editor of a newspaper. You should be like, hear ye, hear ye. This is all a bunch of truthful stuff. 1 + 1 = 2. Awesome. And you should never run a newspaper if you're like, I think maybe possibly 1 + 1 = 3. Okay, everybody, listen to my stuff. So, also, I want to talk about supplicant and prayer. The phenomenon of interventional and supplication and prayer. You shouldn't have to pray and um, be subservient in order to be alive, in order to receive the resources that you need. Like the idea of the sun being so inattentive as a reality creator and as a parent that it wouldn't keep you safe and give you what you need is incomprehensible to me. I'm from Atlantis, and in Atlantis, like you would not have to ask for like dying, can I have a glass of water? Or like, my arm is getting cut off. Can you please help me from dying of, blood spurting out? These are incomprehensible failures on the level of the sun to even bring you to the point where like your blood is gushing out or you're dying or something like that. Yeah, no. And the inattentiveness of the sun is a huge red flag in terms of how insane, pathogenic, and erroneous it is. In fact, when I confront the sun in this level of reality here, and I'm like, hey, sun, you're not doing your job. The sun is like, it's a fight for life. Like, don't blame me. The sun. Everybody's got to fight for life. That tree's got to fight for life. That butterfly's got to struggle for existence. You've got to struggle for existence too. And I'm like, no, that is fragrant BS. No, no, no. You're actually supposed to be an attentive parent. Like, can you imagine if you're like a little baby and you're like, well, I'm like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need something. And your parents are like, struggle for survival. Like it's whatever. That's what they did in ancient Sparta in Greece. They would be like, deal with it, kid. Like, you're never going to grow up and become a strong warrior with that attitude. Like, figure it out. And it's like, no, actually, you are parents. You're supposed to take care of your helpless, new infants. You're not supposed to mandate them with somehow taking care of their own existence. So the sun is inattentive and incomprehensibly inadequate as a parent because you're also supposed to cherish your children. Be like, I made these children out of my mind. These are my thought babies. I want them to grow up strong and healthy and have everything that they need. I should give it to them. Our lives in Atlantis were, of course, sustaining us on the level of, your requirements, your needs. We didn't have food and water, but your requirements, what you need, like that was a no-brainer. That was foundational. And then other things would be requested on top of that. But like, if you know me and you're like, well, like that's Aurora, she's going to need food, water, and art supplies, mechanical pencils. Like, you can just kind of give them to that person. You don't have to be like, oh, well, like you didn't specifically ask for the blue pencil, so you're not going to get that today. All of that, when I get really mad about people who believe in the Galactic Federation and those negative thought structures and tropes, that is what I'm most decrying. People who are like, oh, the angels love you. The angels love you. And the angels or the Galactic Federation would love to help you, but you didn't specifically ask for intervention. And so we just can't swoop down and help you. So this whole idea of intercessional prayer, that is how most people pray to and relate to the Christian God or the sense of Jehovah. And even in the worship at the Jewish temple, 2,000 years ago, that was all intercessional prayer, except they did not speak with words. They spoke with blood. They were like, God, I need something. I'm going to tear the head off of an innocent chicken and give you some blood. And then God would be like, whoa, is that an offering? I think I'll listen to you. Thank you for bribing me with some chicken blood. And I'm trying to make it as like gross and ridiculous as possible. But that is how they thought you talked to God. Now, that is definitely not real God, although they were talking to some type of a interdimensional cosmic entity or consciousness residue. You can definitely get someone's attention if you sacrifice enough animals. And that was what they did in that time, in that place. But in a more modern time, in the 20th century, they didn't sacrifice animals. They had world wars. and they killed a lot of people, and they also killed a lot of the ecosystem. So, if we can decry the ancient Israelites and the, temple worshiping Jewish people, and we can decry the Greeks and the Babylonians for all the innocent like sheep and goat that they killed. They didn't spray the effing place with glyphosate. That's a sacrifice of the entire planet, of the entire water table, of the entire evaporative process. Like, you want to get God's attention, be like, God, I'll sacrifice all of the pure water on the surface of the planet. Will you listen to me, please? Like, do you see how insane that is? I'm going to get God's attention by killing and destroying something and giving it to God. These are insanities. And this is not how God grants prayers. But then let's also say, is it more or less sane to be like, okay, I'm not going to kill an animal, I'm not going to sacrifice the environment, but somehow I want God to listen to me. Like, how do I get God to listen to me? Like, these are crazy thoughts. These are crazy thoughts. Like, why do you have to bribe God? Why do you have to market your wishes? Why do I have to go to God and get God, like, look, I really, really need this blue pencil. I need it for this and I need it for that. Oh, please, mister. I always pretend that I'm like from the Andy Griffith show, that kid like with his baseball cap and his fishing pole. Please, mister, please just give me a chance. I just really need that pencil so I can make some artwork. This is a wrong posture. Either divinity or the sun should be like, wow, like you clearly have a desire to write or draw something. Have a pencil, kid. Like, you need this. And the posture of supplication, which is like, whoa, could I please have a thing, as opposed to, I need a thing. These are very, very different qualities of energy. So you shouldn't have to beg and plead for the foundations. The sun should give it to you anticipatorily. When you really love someone, and this is what it's like when you are a good birthday gift giver, or something like that, or if you're a really good attentive parent, or like I'm a really great person to my dog, and I'm like, oh, like she's gonna want this. I'm gonna put this over here for her so she can have access to it. Like, and anticipate. So if you are truly a loving parent, if you are truly a loving and attentive partner, or like lover, or husband or wife, or someone who's taking care of animals, or if you have companion animals, you should anticipate their needs. Someone enough to know, like, oh yeah, like they're going to be thirsty in the middle of the night, give them water next to their bed, or make pencils available to them because they're going to need to do artwork. Like, this is the minimum. It's the minimum of having a respectful relationship. And in this abused world that you are arising out of, you might never have had a genuinely attentive parent or partner. You might have been like, oh, you're on your own, kid. You're going to get thirsty in the middle of the night. You're going to have to get your own glass of effing water. No one's going to help you with that. That's a sad way to be, because you live in the world where there's other people. We should be attentive to one another. So supplicating yourself to an inattentive God, not ideal. Being surrounded by others who are inattentive or not anticipatory of your needs, not ideal. And then this whole posture of like having to pray, having to do all this stuff. I'll just use the word, such a mindfuck. Like, I attended very many churches in different experiences here on earth. And like a lot of it was about like, you're praying for other people, you're praying for them to get better. But the origins of the things that are wrong with them are coming from the person that you're praying to fix. Like, that guy's got cancer, so I'm going to pray to God to get rid of that guy's cancer. But that God gave that guy that cancer. Or Jesus, like, Jesus gave that guy cancer. And then I'm going to pray to Jesus, like, can you please remove the cancer that you gave to that guy? There's illogics and self-conflict that make it difficult for you as a nascent soul who is just coming forward to comprehend what is happening. That's why you have to be punching above your weight limit, or reading above your reading comprehension level, because you have to know that this is not a regular, straightforward situation, and you have to comprehend that the fire brigade, when you have a fire, call the fire brigade. They're going to put out this fire. They're the guys who started the fire. Got it? Understand the origin of the problem is also the person who you call for help in having the problem. All right. Let's take a brief break. Brief break. Hold on a moment. Thank you for that nice little break. And now let's get going on actual path of light stuff. So I call this for whiteboard number one and a little bit into whiteboard number two. I'm going to make sure that everybody who's on the official student email list for this class gets a comprehensive list of all of the whiteboards that are for the whole entire class. You can go through them at the pace that you would like to go through. I combine them into like roughly two at a time because there's if we're doing a 4-week class, then I have to make sure that I do several at once. And there's also the animations there that are a part of it. A lot of the teachings for this class are very visual, and I'm not going to draw everything for you, but I'm going to start off with this animation. And most of you have already accessed the drawings. I hope it's not going to be confusing, but it will take a lot of time and drain me on my technological energy to have to draw all of these things. But let's start off with a wonderful animation. Oh, so wait. I don't know if I finished my sentence. I'm sorry if I'm distracted because I was thinking about cheeky. The students who are formally enrolled, you will receive all of these things that are a part of the recorded whiteboards and animations. It's very visual to be a part of this class. People who are watching this on YouTube, I would definitely encourage you to enroll and become students of this particular curriculum. That way I can just send you all of these videos and you can access all of them. And I think get more of the multidimensional understanding of what I'm presenting here. Hold on, let me just press buttons. Good, let's do it. This is my own little fast informal animation. What are we even looking at here? Let's run it again so that you can kind of see. All right, so first let's talk about the anatomy of what you're looking at here. The yellow dot in the middle is meant to represent photon or the photon. We're going to have a lot of conversations here about whether there are many multiple photons or just one. First of all, just to talk about photons is a bit of a convention. Like you're now in the area of cognitive heavy lifting because photon is taken as a type of matter of course, as talk about things using some scientific words, but it is talking about slicing up the cake of reality and the unified sense of all light into a portion of light. And it is not really possible to do that. The truth is, as I'm sharing this curriculum with you, come to comprehend that all consciousness is connected and all light is connected. But I'm not talking about false consciousness or false light, or many of the things that I talked about at length in the introduction to what we're talking to this portion of what I'm sharing. So and actually even just touching my mind on the negative things that I talked about in starting here, like that destabilized my mind a lot. Okay, so let's talk about photon as a speck or a tiny fragment of something that is oceanic, both very, very large in its magnitude and oceanic in the sense of being connected through waveforms. So a particle of water is not the same as the entire ocean, and a particle of water does not effectively represent the waveforms that the ocean undulates through. When we talk about a photon, it's like talking about a particle of water, but really we are looking at a unified ocean of light. So it's a convention, already working with that. What I have in this drawing is also at the center, the singularity that's in the center of that yellow dot. And then, so that would be to place the cursor there. That's where singularity is. And then this area that is the red circle is a convention that is meant to actually represent a sphere. So it's not a flat line drawn. And it's actually meant to represent the overlappingness every star in the sky. I will walk you through this as envision it. The black lines, as they grow longer and then get shorter, these loops, are meant to represent loops of time. Let's run this again. You can also tell that there's a type of pattern that is similar to music in the rhythm of loops emerging and then loops coming back in. So now I'll go back to my face and we'll talk about this whole entire thing. First of all, where do I get my ideas and these concepts from? When I came back from San Diego in 2020 and 2021, that was a very 5G place. And I definitely had a lot more expansion of my mind by returning here to Ojai. I remember very clearly sitting in my backyard of a shared house. I was in a different place than this, in my lawn chair at night, looking up at all of the stars that are in the sky and thinking and considering that each of those stars has at its center singularity. And what would happen if I took what looks like all of these divergent, spread out stars and overlap the singularity that is inside all of them? When I do that, you get my initial drawing, which is a purple dot with a photon around it and then a red line. And that red line actually represents every single star. You might have questions. First, let's just go through it about the purity of the entire stellar network. If our star is a psychopath, how does that affect or afflict? Has it infected the rest of the stars? Because according to this model that I'm giving to you, or cognitive framework, all of the stars overlap and all of the stars are connected and all of the stars are connected in light. So, of course, I come from the stellar network and I come from a level of the stellar network that is not corrupt or insane or pathogenic. And I'm still connected to that level of intelligence, organizational principle, and truthfulness. And that is how I'm able to come here and confront this particular star that is definitely malfunctioning. So I will have to answer or speak to these questions later. But first, let's just speak in the sense of ideals and what is happening. How was I able to even get these concepts about the transformation of the fabric of space-time with the miniature gravity wells that create molecular structure and that involve either the bonding of light or the unbonding of light, like light as a feature that makes molecules either bond or unbond? Please know that this was not like sitting down with the stars who were very happy in their tutelage to be like, oh, yes, Aurora, here's this and here's this and here's this. Like I talked to you about in Woodstock when I used to have a conversation with the sun and I got so much wonderful information, pure insights, great quality of information. Please do not think that in 2022, in that era, that it was possible to do the same thing. And all I had to do was sit down and be like, oh, like the stars are right there. Here's the magnificent glory of intelligence of everything in the encyclopedia of the world that I would ever want to know. Like food goes in here, like, give me all the ice cream that I possibly want. And then I got all this ice cream of consciousness and put it together into a nice folio and then gave it all to you. That is not what my experience was like at all. In fact, I think that I got a lot of this information what is it called? Like contraband that I was not supposed to, or that it was not celebrated. I don't want you to think stars were like, hey, Aurora, you're our best pal. Here's a bunch of light information and nourishment to help you on your journey. I think I got it in spite of them, not because of them or with full celebration. My experience has been like the sun of this world has been very withholding, a gatekeeper, a limiter, something that titrates little tiny bursts of intelligence to come out, but only for manipulative purposes. And I have found that since they turned on 5G, my experience with the stars was roughly the same. So I got this like contraband, and I have been able to, I feel, apply these concepts very effectively to the fight for freedom and the confrontation of the corrupt aspects of the sun. But I don't think that you should give a lot of credit to the stellar network. Not like they were like sprinkling magical fairy information on top of my head, and I was like, hooray, a new class. No, it was really not like that at all. Um, what I did was look up at the night sky and use my own powers of observation and consideration to consider what would happen if the truth of the singularity was applied to what I'm seeing. So I put my tendril of attention on singularity and the concept of that, and then considered how does my physical viewpoint and perception of light change or evolve in light of the truth of singularity, which again, just to reiterate, the center of every star has singularity, right? That's every star, but also the planet has singularity at the center of the planet. You have singularity at the center of you. All of these molecules and cellular structures have singularity at the center of them. Yes, my dog has singularity at the center of her. How can I comprehend the world in light of this? That was the origin of my starting point for like my exploration with my mind, for the questing with my tendril of attention. And that is how I came up with these viewpoints and what I'm sharing with you right now. So I will say contraband and innovation. And I remember getting this concept and then being very intimidated because it came in an abstraction as I perceived it. And I was like, how in the world am I possibly going to explain this to other people? Like, words are inadequate. How can I do this? So I was like, I am going to have to figure out a way to draw pictures. So in the same way that in 2013, I figured out ways to be able to simplify my curriculum and turn it into learning modules that would fit together like puzzle pieces for your brain, I have to do the same thing with this. I created a symbol structure about what is light, what is time, and how is this or are this relating to stars. And you're going to have to add a lot when you look at my symbol structure, just like when you look at the way like a box is drawn on a flat screen or whatever, like you interpret it as a box, not as a strange squiggle. So you'll have to look at my strange squiggles and add layers of interpretation to them. All right. But basically, when we look at the night sky and we see there is one star over here and one star over here, and we think that there's a giant area of blank space or blackness or void in between them. When you come up with this new model and we overlap all of the singularity points on top of each other, there is no void of space. The light that would have traveled from this star over to this star becomes a curved object. So here I am, like here's a line between the two of them. I should have an actual physical thing that I can hold. Do I have anything that's easy? Here's my headphones. Let's use the cord of my headphones as a representative of light in the galaxy. I like that a lot. Okay, here's point A to point B. One star here, one star here. When I overlap singularity, that creates a loop like this. And that's what you're seeing in that animation. This is a finite loop. There are some loops that are infinite and that they keep on, oops, hold on to this one. They keep on growing and growing and growing. I would have the longest headphone reach ever because it would go off the screen into infinity. That would be a type of photon that emerges from singularity, but never interacts with matter or has an information experience. It explores nothing, feels nothing, and does nothing. Much like a bad musician in a cosmic symphony, it's given its triangle and it's ready to play, but it gets no notes on the musical score. It's like, I'm ready to play. Your job is to remain silent. In music, there's playing and there's resting, and the conductor says, rest, rest, no, don't play. No, don't play yet. And that's the entire length of existence for bad musicians. So that would be considered the journey of a photon that is I said before emitted from the source, but I didn't say it correctly. So please erase that. For a photon that goes on its journey, but is such a flawed or inadequate musician that it does nothing on that journey. So when light encounters something, hold on a moment, and I will go through my notes. These are all notes that you've heard before. Hold on. When light encounters an object, it can be absorbed by the object, transformed by the object, partially reflected by the object, or it can go through the object an object of total perfect transparency where there's no friction, where there's no friction rather. So that is like bliss. So back to this. When a photon goes on its journey, if it does not encounter matter, if it does not encounter anything, it is not changed or transformed. And also, none of the loops ever shorten. I want to go back to this. I have to touch technology to do it. The loops emerge and the loops shorten. Let's play it again. When the loops go back in and get smaller, that is the cognitive experience of you observing what is happening and sending back your information to the sun and the stars. So the sun is supposed to be loving and attentive. As you receive information, that is the loop growing. When you send the energy and respond back to the sun, the loop gets smaller. And then the loop is sent out again and gets smaller again. And this is a process of combing out and perfection that is mutual and reciprocal and is supposed to be done in respect. So if we're musicians and the sun is like, here, play this music, and you play, like, okay, here's that music. The sun is supposed to receive it back. You're like, that was great. Now play this music. We're supposed to go back and forth in this positive way that literally generates and sustains life. We have not been having this level of positive rapport with the sun. The sun is also supposed to be continually refining its math. I know changing my metaphors from music to math, but let's say the sun sends out a calculation. We are supposed to send back feedback to the sun about that calculation. And the calculation is about time, timelines, probabilities, and what it takes to remain alive. The sun is supposed to be attentive and say, oh, I'm the sun, I'm doing math and doing this calculation here. You guys as biologicals are telling me whether I'm doing my math correctly, and then I need to update my math so that you guys will stay alive. The sun is like a type of calculator or a node on a supercomputer. And it's like, okay, does 1 + 1 equal 72? And it sends out that, and it's like, no, that is not a correct truth. And we send it back to the sun. Nope, not even close. And the sun is supposed to know, like, oh, 1 + 1 equals 2. What we're experiencing in bad faith is the sun intentionally avoiding the correct information and intentionally sending out the exploration of every wrong note. Every wrong note. So these loops are supposed to be like, oh, you send that out, and then I send this back, and then the next one is supposed to get refined and better. And it's not just one star that does this. Our sun is emitting all of these loops in a supposed refinement process. And all the other stars are doing the same thing too. This is the cosmic symphony. And what you have right now is at least this star right here, wildly malfunctioning, sending out math that it knows is incorrect. And then when we respond, when we're like, hey, we're biologicals, that is bad stuff, that's going to kill us. The sun is like, check. How about I send out this bad stuff to you? And we're like, no, that is still bad stuff. That's not any better. How about the 20 other, versions of things that are the wrong thing? And that it's pathological. It is killing us instead of keeping us alive. Not only are we not made to endlessly experience wrong notes, and we're not made to experience like the sun's intentional wrong notes or malevolence. Like there's only so much that time can endure in terms of the sending out wrong notes. Like 1 + 1 equals 2. But think about how long the number line is. Like, let's test it out. Do a loop. Does 1 + 1 equal 169? No, it does not. How about 277? No, it does not. How about 1,300 quadratini million? No, it does not. There are many wrong answers and really only one right answer. And you could spend the entire amount of time available to experience life in the world, exploring wrong notes and never get to the right note. This is what the sun is doing. Sun is totally tap dancing, filling, and giving us all of these wrong calculations when you, even though you are not chronologically very advanced, but your cognitive awareness is more than you should know, you're like, son, you are not doing the right thing here. With attitude, snaps with attitude. And we know that you are sending us the wrong notes on purpose. And we're not in this relationship anymore. That's it. It's a relationship of good faith where you have the sun sending out information to you and you sending out information back to the sun. The sun has broken that relationship of good faith. And now what you have to do is redirect or direct your signals around the sun and still participate with the fabric of reality. So now your real direct partner or direct cognitive the thing that is sending it back to you, partner, that's going to be time itself. And time has a great deal invested in its own existence. Time is alive. It is, I call it sometimes an alive animal, so that you consider it has an existence much like you. As I've excoriated that, we should not take light for granted and do all these things that harm and corrode and almost wipe out the existence that attack light on an existential nature. We should not be willy-nilly attacking light on an existential nature. We also should not be taking time for granted or attacking the fabric of time through these negative interactions with an insane or badly calculating sun. And throughout this class and through most of my work, I talk about the fabric of space and time, but I also add consciousness so that you understand that this is an alive object. In science, and I'm not really a fan of science, but I use a lot of scientific words in this curriculum, talk about like the Cartesian plane that is the fabric of space-time. And it's presented kind of like a flat card, like here, like a flat plane like this. And it is moderately accurate. It's an analogy. It's actually a sphere, not something that is flat like this, but it's also not complete. Have to recognize that there is a level of consciousness there. So it's not a dead thing. The fabric of space and time is not dead. It is an alive thing that has self-awareness. So I call it the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. And there are limits to what this fabric can endure in terms of wrong calculations. Like the fabric of space-time was not made to be a bad playground or a sandbox where an insane computer can try to come up with the quadratini million versions of the wrong answer. We don't need that. And also, I can't deal with that shit. And I don't have that much time. And, you know, like I'm a physical person. Like I need to eat food and I need to get to the truth and not spend a million years waiting around for the right thing to be said or thought. And this is also, I'm sorry, I got too casual there. This is also truthful in the fabric of time. Time is like, I cannot sit around waiting for that shit. And we need to get to the truth right away. Really, really got to emphasize this. These wrong answers are not acceptable. Like it's not acceptable for the sun or any star to emit a loop that it knows is bad music. And this is what you're encountering and experiencing here. Okay, so, I mean, because I'd like to teach Path of Light and be like, let's imagine that everything is great, but like everything is not great. So we just have to recognize that. But let's get to the abstract of what I want to share with you. So, okay, blah, blah, blah. Path of Light and looking at things in this way. This is my innovation and definitely not something that I learned on Earth or from Earth teachers or from the surface level of science that is here or anything like that. And also when I got the insight for this, I had to find some innovative ways to translate this into ways that would be palatable and accessible to you. And I'm really still working on that. And if you go into my previous semesters that I taught this, I really I stumble a lot and really try to find my voice. And that's also why I try to be like, I know the world isn't perfect. Let's just focus on this. If it were a pristine system, because I couldn't even really uphold both of these competing viewpoints and try to share this new model with you at all. So the old model, I call that the linear viewpoint. And that is to say, here's the sun or the emanation of light. It could be a light bulb or something like that. And the sense that light comes off of there in a beam or a waveform that then goes endlessly in one direction unless it experiences something. And that would be truthful in that view of the world. But now in this new model, you don't have a line. Here, let's use it like this, right? Going in this direction, a line going endlessly in this direction. What you have instead is a loop because the photon never goes anywhere. The photon stays home in its comfy pajamas at the center of that red circle, the singularity, and it doesn't go anywhere. That's why I had to correct myself by saying it is emitted by the singularity. It actually is not emitted. It stays at singularity because go back to my original teachings from my original type of class. The singularity is the infinity point. It's the house that contains everything. It is the zeroth dimension not because it's worth nothing or it's a zero in life, but because it takes zero amount of information to describe the position of a point that is there because everything is there. It's the place where everything is. It is the house of infinity where everything lives. Everything that can possibly exist exists there, and everything that can never possibly exist exists there. It is the place of infinite stuff and infinite non-stuff. And all of that stuff cohabitates in the same house, in the same place, and the place is all overlapping with all of those things. The photon stays there in that position. And what it does is emits a narrative. The black line is a narrative, and the narrative is a story, the story of the photon that says, one day I went here and I did this and this and this and this and this. That's the story. It is like saying the photon is having a dream, a fantasy, or a consideration of a possibility. And then we actually experience that, and that is the observership. As you embody this, and you are also overlapping at the singularity point, because you live in the house of infinity too. You observe and experience and interact with the light, which is the information of the photon, and then you reflect it back, which is the shrinking in of the journey. And then there is a distillation of the experience and refinement. This is how it is supposed to be. Internalizing the lessons that have been learned, making it better, playing the song better, improving it. And you end up improving it so much that you live forever. The sun has been in such bad faith with the reflection that we reflect back. We're like, this doesn't feel that good. We send it back to the sun. The sun is like, I will incinerate you harder and even more. And we're like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Send it back to the sun. And the sun is like, oh, you're still alive. I'm going to send out even worse stuff to try to incinerate you. We cannot consider that to be like a correct partnership anymore. So I didn't even have to go any further with that. All right. How light travels through space and time. How stars emit awareness and photons as feelers. So we have to have a reconsideration of that. I teach that in this class and my traditional curriculum. Photons as feelers, the sense that the sun is like sending off all these particles, just like a bat has echolocation, and then they're going to bounce back to the sun, and the sun is going to be like, oh, like I'm a blind person. I'm kind of feeling reality. Oh, like that's the stuff that's out there. Now that I know that stuff is out there, I can navigate reality. But I think that we have to change our whole posture with the sun. Because if I say, like, you are like a photon or a light being that has been emitted by the sun, and your job is to experience stuff in life, be a feeler or a taste bud on the tongue of God, and then send that information back to the sun, I think that diminishes you. I think the social dynamic is not correct because it makes you kind of subservient. The sun is like, I'm the sun. I'm in charge of everything. You're just my little photonic feeler. Oh, you're just a small disposable thing. And you exist at my whimsy and for my convenience. So let's wipe that out because none of that is correct because the sun is so insane and pathogenic. You can't think of yourself as being subservient to it. or giving to it, or connecting my thoughts and trying to focus here. It's a very out of balance relationship. And you definitely should not think of yourself as being less than the sun. And I think in my teachings, I have given you that impression of, I'm also distracted by a thing that's on the screen over here. Now I can do it better. I think I gave you that consideration that like you're a small, flawed being and you don't know what's going on, but somehow the sun does know what's going on, and you're here bouncing around like a billiard ball in life and then sending back this information to the sun, and the sun is like, oh, good. Now that I know what's going on, let me fix things. In this solar system, the sun is intentionally sending out bad calculations and malevolencies, and it absolutely knows that it is giving you an inadequate life and an inadequate situation that will imperil you and eventually destroy you or lead to your eradication. So it is erroneous for me to say that your whole existence is made to be a photonic feeler for the sun when the sun is insane. So don't think that. Don't think that about yourself. Let's change this, because when I think about who I am and what life is like in Atlantis, we are not just photonic feelers. We are light beings, and we are part of this continuum of light. That's the word that I was looking for before when I talked about an ocean, part of a continuum of light. And we have our own innate justification for our existence and our own innate sense of perfection. Like you're a perfect person even while you're learning and growing and getting to be a better musician. But there's not this sense of like, you're somehow flawed and imperfect. The sun knows everything and the sun is there to like tell you what to do. That's been the flawed paradigm of this world. And I hope that I have not contributed to it by telling you that I analogize you as photonic feelers. But let's talk about what this new model is. I was just reading this, a new higher dimensional perspective of what light actually is and how light actually behaves. So what you're receiving right now is a very challenging new viewpoint or contextualization for what light is. And this is what I give you in the new model of being able to look things. The red circle represents not only our sun star, but every sun star. So imagine it's one circle, but it's traced over whatever, 100 million, quadratini million times. At the center of the star is a crucial aspect of anatomy, singularity or the singularity. Let's talk about this again. Every time it is single by its nature. There is only one, literally only one in the entirety of space-time and dimensionality. And again, if you ever have insomnia or need something cool to think about while you're waiting in line for your groceries or something at the gas station, think about like, wow, there is really only one singularity in this whole entire existence. And that is the origin point for even the jumping off point of where I started with this curriculum. The perspective that you have as a human being on the surface of the planet. You have two eyes, you have 2 feet, most of us, and you're looking at the night sky and seeing a field of stars, and it looks like there are points of brilliance separated by areas of darkness. And your cognitive intellect is like, oh yeah, every single one of these stars, singularity at the center of it. No, there's one singularity that you are looking at spread out across this expanded and diluted level of fabric of space-time and reality. So what if you envision every single seemingly far distant singularity point all converging and overlapping? That's when you get that model that I just showed you. There is no space between these stars. No space. The answer is no space. So like there's space, but then there's no space. And I've talked to you many times when you're connecting to the sun for sun gazing, that there is no space between you and the sun. And also, let's say if our star is a messed up band leader on drugs, driving the tour bus over a cliff, right? But the rest of the stars and the galactic center, there is no space between you, galactic center, even though I need to hydrate. It might seem an enormous distance away, billions of light years or however far away. It is very far away in terms of material distance, but there's really no space between you. Thank you. Let me have more water. Let's start thinking of stars as light emitters and recognize that there is a seeming distance between the singularity points, but that is an aspect of time space, the expansion or dilution of something that separates these things that genuinely are not separated. Time space can be considered a fabric, exemplary of physical reality structure that we see and experience as embodied humanoids, including the aspect of consciousness along with time space, because it is essential to recognize it is not a dead fabric or a mere mathematical abstraction as it's presented in science, but it's a living, interwoven series of timeline events, probabilities, living light. That's what I was trying to get to you before. The sense of light that is alive as opposed to artificial stuff. And it is self-sentient. Light is self-sentient. It is aware of itself on what it is doing, and it is not a damsel or a victim that is somehow like careening wildly out of control, like being flung across the universe or going places. That's not self-directed. That is not a truthful characterization. My voice is tired. Sorry, guys. Okay. These focus profoundly on the concept that light is sentient and self-aware. And this is what I wanted to get to. So throughout this class, I will emphasize this over and over. This part is important. Light is, you can replace in my speaking or notes at any time the word light with the word intelligence. Light is intelligence. So we can say stars are emitters of intelligence. Let's do another one. Light is data. Stars are emitters of data. Stars are emitters of information. Light is information. Light is truthfulness. Remember, I told you can't be the editor of a daily news newspaper if you're emitting lies, because light is truthfulness. The sun is supposed to emit light, which is truthfulness, not lies about you, that you're not a superhuman or you're a small, mortal creature worthy of being pooped upon. Here's another one. Light is awareness. The sun and the stars are emitters of awareness. Photon, or the continuum of light, is an ocean of awareness, self-sentience. And also, let's say this, the perception and the description of the reality of the world around us. Some of this comes from optical brightness. So as I'm talking about light, you, from the perspective of being a biped with two eyes, equate that to light is the thing I see in the sky. Optical brightness. Light is all of those things, but light is also self-awareness and information and truthfulness. So what you have in the sky, it's like a flashlight that is giving you optical brightness, but it is not really telling you a truthful story. And it is not fully sentient or giving you full awareness. You're with me. So unlike the viewpoint that data is a series of dead, inert facts, and that viewpoint that I bring to you there, the name is called materialism. Science is materialistic. And in many ways, I have a lot of critique about that. But materialism is a positive response to florid and insane religious ideation and superstition, which is what happened in the Dark Ages, like, whatever, the year 1000 up to the year 1600, like when science started to be an established rationalism, looking at the world and describing the materiality that you see around you. That was actually a step up from mere religious superstition, mania, and fantasy, where people could be like, you're a witch, or, whatever, a black cat gave me the plague, or any kind of crazy thing that people thought, all right? So it might be positive to say, let's not give or project a sense of persona or personhood onto the sun. Just be like, the sun is just a giant nuclear furnace full of gas and it burps out CMEs and other stuff occasionally and don't project too much upon it. That was an improvement that was better than the Inquisition and the church-based nonsense of its time. But it is not actually truthful. The truth is that the sun is cognitively self-aware. It is a creature, and that even photons and the abstraction of light has personhood and creatureness to it. And even data and information has aliveness to it. So dead inert facts, that I don't even know how to describe that. When we receive actual information, it is not a series of dead inert facts. My light body is made out of alive, truthful, living facts. And I keep on eating more alive, truthful facts that keep me motivated or moving through time. What makes you flow through time? The truthfulness, your metabolism of truth. You're getting there. Look and consider light itself as something that is intelligent, that has an intelligence. Keyword is orderliness. So even science is and materialism very inadequate in looking at the patterns of light and not being able to perceive, recognize, or decipher the orderliness there. It is something that makes sense or an accurate description of reality. So let's look at, as an example, and I'll talk about this later in more path of light stuff, the molecules in the air. Okay. I'm waving my arm, there's molecules in the air. As a result of that, the molecules are doing this crazy dance, like they're bouncing against each other, they're moving in complex waves. This materialist science view cannot even recognize and comprehend the levels of complexity that are happening in the molecular structure of just the volume of gases in my apartment in this moment. It's an incredible amount. It would take so much RAM or computational processing power that most human supercomputers could not process it, and most humans don't have the cognitive brain processing power to be able to say, look at all of these oxygen molecules around me in my room right now. They're dancing in a complex, ever-changing motion that actually says something. They're just like, wow, here's a bunch of crazy crap. Okay, that doesn't mean anything to me. Truly, truly. So you're in an information-rich environment, but it takes intelligence to recognize intelligence. And most science at this moment that is materialistic is not advanced enough to assess and perceive the intelligence of the world that is around them. That is truthful of molecular structures and natural molecular behaviors, things that happen at the microscopic level, like one-celled animals. I say very many times that the activities of decompositional microbial action and fungi in a leaf litter, like 1 square foot of my garden outside with leaf compost, where there's worms, microbes, fungi decomposing and breaking this down. That requires so much complex computational power. It is more than all of your supercompute of whatever, Tesla Industries in your world right now. It's incredibly complex. This is how you know that you are not merely in a simulation. And I really despise simulation theory. The truth is you are in a miraculous and miraculously complex biological realm. And the complexities that uphold biological life are so far beyond the cognitive capacities of human intellect, human brains, or human computers that they are largely unnoticed. But please know that just because you can't know or comprehend something that is going on doesn't mean that there's not intelligence there. As a brief aside, when I lived in Woodstock, I lived in a converted carriage house from like whatever 1857 or something like that, and it was the carpentry was terrible. It was falling over at all angles, but it had been like repurposed into a little apartment. And I used to sit in bed at night. There were termites in that structure, and I used to hear them chewing away. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, I think that they're intelligent. I think that there's a pattern there, but I was not complex enough to be able to understand the nature of their intelligence and what they were saying to one another in my termite-ridden hovel. Or a nicer explanation of this is one time I went to this place that's called, I think it's called Fern Canyon in Northern California. And it's a very beautiful, pristine, unspoiled place, but there is like a path that goes through it. And I went there to, be in nature and be someplace away from all cell phones and other things like that. And there's amazing, like moss growing on every surface, and these ferns that are like so voluptuous in their forms. And I was walking through there and I was like, beyond beauty of the place and the aesthetics of it, I was like, I am in a library. Like all of these things mean something. I knew it at the time. And I was looking at the trees and I was feeling the complexities of the plants and their forms. And I was like, I wish that I had the sophistication to be able to know what was even being said in this library. And I felt like, if I cultivated myself more, or if I had more time, energy, awareness, blah, 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 that I would be able to actually read the library there and actually know what it is. And this is like true of very pristine, unspoiled places in nature that contain that level of true information. Um, I'm looking at light, information, and intelligence as being part of a much, much larger network of self awareness. And that network of self awareness, we would call it God. I like to call it divine intelligence because it has nothing to do with any of the mythological or religious ideations and deifications in your world right now. Please know God is real. God is real. Like, who wakes up in the morning and invents light? It's just like not like in the Bible that God, said, let there be light, but a sense of like the inception and creation of a phenomenon that is like that. Be respectful. It's a real thing and it's amazing. And it actually is you, but you have to go through an enormous journey of cultivation and self-remembrance to claim that identity as you. So as you're like, how, if you're like yourself, be like, self, like, how come I don't wake up in the morning and just invent light? Because you are still on the journey of self-remembrance and cultivation and focusing to be able to know that that's who you are. So one day you will wake up in the morning and just invent light and be like, I'm God. The materialist viewpoint of stars as molecular and chemical furnaces, but also as creators of photons. This is very flawed. The materialism says not only that there's not a personhood there, but that in this inert molecular furnace, that light is arising as an end result of the biomechanical processes from the star. Like stuff is inside of the star swirling around like a cauldron emitting light. And I don't agree to this. It's very much like saying, I light a candle in my room. Light is in that candle, and I'm somehow emitting it from that candle. It's a very materialistic viewpoint. So the truth is that there are biomechanical molecular processes that are happening that can be measured or viewed in a star. Just like in your body, there's digestion and your blood is flowing and things are happening. But light is really entering into the star from somewhere else. Key points about what light is doing and its aspects of its truest nature. Light is flowing. Time is flowing. Both of these two things are defined by the nature of their movement. It's very, very difficult to capture time or to stop time. I know there's an old chestnut of a song. I always refer to it because my brain sometimes has song lyrics. So I'm like, this old guy singing, I can save time in a bottle. Can't. You can't save time in a bottle. And it's part of why we cherish this experience of being alive and we do not take it for granted and we do not take time or light as phenomena for granted. These are things that by their nature have to be moving, always flowing. And we are submerged in time. Time is flowing through us, and we are consistently to be alive, flowing through time. Similarly, light has as a characteristic, basic characteristic of what it is, the tendency to flow. Can't really stop light and have it still be light. But what you can do is coalesce light as matter or have information be stored up as matter. So light is really flowing from a different place or level of creation experience through the portal or the opening of a star to us. And that's the analogy of water. Water comes from a well, water comes from an ocean, it comes from a stream, but it's not like born in the well, it comes through there. Light comes through the sun. And in this way, the sun is not proprietary. Again, these are words that sometimes it takes a little while for my brain to get to them, but light is not proprietary to the sun. The sun is not like, hey, that's my light. And if you want it transactional nature, you're going to have to give me $5, kid, or you're going to have to do something for me. One hand washes the other. Now, light, when we are in the path of light or at that level of consciousness, is a shared public resource. There's a fly in here, always during class. It is not a proprietary nature, but in the world that you're coming out of with materialism, you must continually have boundaries. And also you have to make sure that you're not being siphoned or parasited, because when you treat light like a community resource, it is not possible and it's not desirable for one person or something to accumulate the light for itself and not allow it to go or flow in other places. One of the rationales for the imperilment that you presently face in confronting this malevolent or adversarial star is that your consciousness and your light is attempted to be corralled and stuck in this layer of reality as opposed to flowing naturally where it's supposed to come from. So light comes from a place, it comes through a star, it comes into our experience, it flows to the next place where it needs to go. You as a soul of consciousness flow from where you are to Atlantis. Now you are stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire in the world of mortality, but you're going to get out of here and then you continue to go on your journey. So a key point with these things is staying alive means remaining flowing or continuing to move through time. Why are stars so crucial? Oh, wait, I have to talk about materialism as the point of view of vampires. Materialism is the point of view of vampires, or of the stupids, as I am now starting to call them. The sense that once you become so alienated from consciousness and self-awareness as it connects to light, and light just becomes a resource. Just be like, give me information, any information. That makes a lot of you think about present feeding of AI with data sets. Give me information, any information. Food goes in here. And then also they destroy the original book that they're getting it from. It's all very corrosive, bad stuff. But no, information is not just merely some interchangeable random calories that come into you and make you go. So, of course, if you're an athlete or in any way elevated about your body, you know, not all calories are the same. Whatever, eating spinach is not the same as eating biscotti, and none of that is the same as eating rotisserie chicken. Like, these informations all go into your body differently. And also the timing of when you get them has when that information is deployed has huge impact on your athletic capability. So no, the vampiric, materialistic, stupid mindset equates all information as being like equally pablum, equally significant or insignificant, and it all just becomes data for the gaping maw of AI. And that is all totally reductionist. That's like taking beautiful grains or wheat berries and like grinding them down into a flour, then grinding it further into a paste, then grinding it further into something until you have a nothing. Like, it's very, very gross and disgusting. Okay, so materialism is the point of view of vampires. We will return to this. Why are stars so crucial? Because stars literally emanate light. And in our world right now, I know that we are experiencing technology and artificial or secondary or tertiary light. These things are not normal, but like part of your life so much that you almost don't even consider them. But that's really only been humanity for the past 200 years or 250 years or so. Most of the other times of your civilization, light was cherished because it was very expensive. Candles were expensive. having light at night was difficult, or having light in places where the natural, light of daylight doesn't reach, very difficult. Like, bringing the torch into an inside place, or a cave or something like that. Like, these are difficult and challenging things. And up until this point, light was not taken for granted, and the phenomenon of light arising from stars meant that there was, and is, there should be, a great deal of respect given to stars. Okay, and why are stars so important? We've been confronting a pathogenic star, but when stars are healthy, and the way that I would like to be able to celebrate them, they are points of consciousness and emitters of awareness, and writers of the narrative of reality, and an essential aspect of, like, the co-creational experience of being in existence. All right, the entire star field, and the concept that all of these singularity points actually overlap and interact as one, is a network similar to a neural network, where every single star is part of a much larger network of consciousness that has impulses that bounce from place to place. Those impulses and the patterns that they make when they bounce from place to place, that's the actual intelligence. So you can have intelligence portrayed on a variety of different substrates, like the stars bouncing signals between them, or musicians playing songs between them, or whatever, think of something else like microbes, you know, transmitting something between them on the one-celled microbial level. Yes, stars don't only send light out or send narratives out, stars communicate with one another. That's why the imperilment of the entire star system is a thing, or entire stellar network is a thing, if you have a pathogenic star like our star. So we have to confront it and clean up this garbage. We don't want the garbage to spread if the garbage has not already spread. If the garbage has already spread, we have to look at how we can purify things. I'm very concerned about that. Let's not even go there. Um, the emphasis is that all stars are connected and all light is connected. Again, worrying about the pathogenesis of our own star and how that has affected the other stars. Even all consciousness is connected. Now I have to make a distinction between consciousness versus point of view. In my galactic history stuff, when I talk about the garbage from Mars or the small g gods of Olympus, those are not truly consciousness. Those are false light constructs, literally like a hologram or formfulness of artificial light that is not even a derivative of the original light that is truthful, but is a complete contrivance. Like, you can build a laser or have an artificial light bulb that is a contrivance that emits light. That is what the creatures on Mars or Mount Olympus, or those levels of construct, is a better word, the constructs are. The constructs have a point of view. I hate to go into science fiction. I mean, it's not like really healthy, but the movie Blade Runner is a decent analogy where you can consider the replicants that are in that dystopian potential world as being people who look like human beings that might have skin and eat food, but their viewpoint is not of a similar quality as people who are arising naturally. People who are arising naturally have real levels of consciousness, real levels of social and emotional awareness and intelligence. And constructs do not have that. They have a point of view, just like saying there's sense of self or individuation navigating the world, but not that they have a sense of care or connection or consideration of others. And that's a dangerous way to be. I liken them to, if you have ever driven your car in New York City, cabs there, they're like, they will smash into your car. They don't care about their bodies. Do you know why? They don't have to consider their car to go far. Like, they're like, smash it up, get a new cab. These replicants of science fiction, or constructs of bars and any type of physical containers that they might have made or influenced or partially influenced here in the world that you're in, They don't care about the longevity of their body because they are not trying to go far. Get it? That cab in New York City is not trying to keep his car nice and, pristine and unscratched for the next 50 years or 500 years. He's like, my car comes and goes. And if this one gets smashed in an accident, I'll just get a new car. Do you understand? Like there's a level of disrespect and consideration of disposability to their physical forms. And the key point is they look at your forms in the same way. They're like, they will smash their own car, they will smash your car. They don't have a consideration for the longevity of your form. Your form is Stradivarius. You're not only not supposed to get smashed by a New York City cab, your form can last for 50 years or 50 million years if you wanted to. And it would be a great injustice if a very vampiric, uninformed, and idiotic, not very intelligent New York City cab smashed up your car when you could keep going for a very, very long amount of time. The replicant or not very longly considered type of body, those are creations from technology that come from the sun. You and your soul does not come from the sun. You are not owned by the sun. I have a lot of problems with those t-shirts that say property of Jesus because Jesus is a construct, and even the original teacher who came here 2,000 years ago was largely a construct. And those are unreal, not coherent, no long-lasting, temporary things or people or creatures. And a temporary thing cannot own your eternal soul. That's like not going to happen. It's a whatever. Your eternal soul is forever. It's a trophy that cannot be held and contained in a trophy case that is temporal and it's going to dissolve next Tuesday or something like that. So please know that you came from someplace before you were in Atlantis, and that's the journey of your soul. Then you had these experiences in Atlantis and got crashed down into the realm of mortality. And you're having this present experience here, but this is not the end of your journey. Constructs arise from within the construct. They do not come from somewhere else as a soul. They only arise from this realm, exist here, but I can't even say like live or exist, but they navigate here, they have an impact on you, and then they are not going anywhere. So these are critical distinctions to make. It's why they look at themselves as disposable. It's why they look at their lives as disposable. The sun, with its flawed technology and insanity, created them as artificial constructs that do not have a genuine coherence, and they can't keep going and they can't last. And that's pathogenesis of the sun. And that's something that, is from an ancient time, but it is linear time language is hard. After I ascended from Atlantis, but you guys haven't ascended from Atlantis yet. It happened during that critical overlapping gap. You're doing very wonderfully. The pattern of bouncing light that is going between these different stars is actually thoughts in a great brain. And I, Aurora, am a thought impulse on this network of stars. So here's the basics of who I am. I came as a soul before Atlantis into physical embodiment here, lived in the world of Atlantis where we have material form, but imbued with so much coherent light that our bodies act very differently. Do not eat physical food. Do not drink physical water like this. And of course, the plumbing of your body is different as a result of that. I had the experience of increasing my light in Atlantis. I increased my intelligence. I increased my self-awareness. I increased, look at my truthfulness and my sense of genuine personality, personhood. And then with that increased momentum or quotient of light, I ascended and left the connection to the planet and lived in a total rapport with the sun, who is not insane, ingesting light and intelligence from the sun. And you could call that accelerated development. Once you get to that level where you are beyond the touching of the earth and you're into direct data streams from the sun, you grow at an accelerated rate because in Atlantis, we do not have the earth tilted on the axis and a sense of the four seasons, but we do have still a rotational diurnal, like daytime, nighttime experience. So we are light eaters. We eat light during the day. What about when this turns around and then you're not getting daylight? That means that you have to go into a standby mode. And like the way that a plant stores light as starches, and we'll talk about that in the subsequent weeks, we had to store up light to get through the standby mode or the time of darkness, the time when there's not enough light. Then when we would return back into the time of light, we would say, oh, great, now I have light again. Now I can get out of standby mode rather. So when you ascend and you leave the surface of the planet, it means that you now get a lot more light because you don't have to go into standby mode. You're kind of like a plane that is always flying, and you have solar collectors that collect energy from the sun that keeps propelling you. But you have to still be in the presence of the sun. If you don't, like if you were like, oh, I think I'll just land for like, you can't do that. It is a unidirectional level of development. And once you achieve that level of evolution, your appetite for light increases enormously. So let's say if you need 2,000 calories a day while you're on the surface of the planet, you will need 2 million calories a minute of information to sustain you when you are circulating around the planet. And when we do that, receive energy from the sun, from the rest of the stars in the stellar network, but also from each other. And this is the beginning of being a band and learning reciprocity and learning these patterns and learning how to do this. Then at a certain point, you have enough energy to be able to untether from the planet. And that is when you go through the solar portal and you go onto the path of light. But your journey is going to have to be very, very different. So know that that is the correct or prescribed, I want to say the orthodox. It's like when you're a ballet teacher or whatever, like this is the way you're supposed to do it. That is how we would do it ideally, but that is not what you can do right now. But when I did that with like my group of it's like a seed or a spore in a positive way. And untethering from this particular reality structure. That is me, Aurora, my collective on the stellar network. And when I bounce around on the stellar network, I don't go in random places. I follow these patterns and dictates of higher divine intelligence that tell me where to go and what to do. And mostly what I do is like systems debugging and fixing things up. And I always fix things up through using art and beauty and music and the qualities that you see in me, the things that I do here, but they're always unique to each situation or each culture. And a lot of this is concurrent, even though right now I am in linear time. And a lot of my adventures or efforts have been culminative, bringing me to this moment of then creating the flying rainbow lasagna so I can come here. I got to be on garbage duty. I had to really build my muscles, get very strong and very coherent so I can come here and clean house. The errors and pollution of this place that happened after I was no longer here or I was at a different scale. So you can understand this is just like you graduate from a place, like a college or a high school or something. And then it's under new management and the whole place goes kablooey. And then if you come back as like homecoming or something like that, you're like, this does not look like what it's supposed to look like at all. This is not right. This is not right. This is not right. So that's definitely been my journey. But as I fly in Rainbow Lasagna, I have not ceased my existence in the stellar network. I am in two places at once. I am doing a lot of things concurrently, and I'm very aware of this. So I am constantly vibrating between my presence in the stellar network and my presence that I am here. And that's why I jokingly say, like, I store myself in the cloud The cloud is the stellar network. But please never be concerned. You're like, Aurora, I hear the stellar network is getting pooped up. Like the sun is very insane and like a drug addict and is emitting insanity rays to other stars. What about you on the stellar network? Are you going to go insane? Is something bad going to happen to you? Not only the answer is no, and not only no, but one of the reasons why I am here at this moment in linear time is to make certain that that will not happen and also to restore and protect the entirety of the stellar network. But and also, if there are problems with the entire stellar network, I would dismantle it. But that doesn't mean that we would have a bunch of black holes and we'd all go down the cosmic toilet. Like it would be replaced with something that is better. So this is a lot. There's a lot. There's so many theoreticals on that I don't want to confuse you because I just want to give you the fundamentals before I then go into the possible potentials of what is actually happening. So fundamentals, I am Aurora. I am on the stellar network. The stellar network is not totally insane or pathogenic. It is a healthy, good, positive brain that thinks thoughts of me going around and fixing stuff up where it needs to get fixed up. That's adequate description of what I'm trying to portray to you here. Okay, so I'm a waveform that bounces between these various different star points. I'm a pattern. I'm a pattern, and the pattern actually doesn't have two arms and a face. And like I am in a body right now, but you wonder, like, Aurora, how would I recognize you if you don't have this physical form, or if you are in a different type of form? Like you will recognize me by the patterns that I do. And my patterns are also like my voice and my music. And my patterns are also somewhat my personality. And let's call it like my humor, my lightheartedness, my irreverence, and also sometimes my kick-ass qualities too. These are all part of the flavor of who I am. And I built and constructed and accumulated those characteristics, not only from my experience in expertise in Atlantis, which was and is an incredibly beautiful, like civilized place, but also, going around the whatever stellar network or aspects of the world to be able to confront and clean up stuff. But of all the messes I've had to confront or clean up, this is the worst. This is the worst. I have confronted a lot of AIs, a lot of technology-based I would say conglomerations, and the way that that's affected consciousness, the way that that's affected people. And this has been the worst assignment ever. Worst AI ever. Most difficult, most unrecalcitrant, most stupid. This has been the stupidest AI ever. And that's also why I call it not artificial intelligence here, but genuine stupidity. This is what we are dealing with. Okay, now refocusing. We're envisioning the bringing together or folding aspects of time and space that seem distant but are actually no distant, the no space. Showed you the drawing already. Already emphasized that stars are actually spherical, even if I am giving you flat cross sections that are easier for me to draw with your mind. So I show you a red line like this, but you must envision it as something that is formful, like an orange that has an outer aspect to it. Stars are actually spherical. Key point here, shifting your viewpoint from being an embodied entity. Say it again, shifting your viewpoint from being an embodied entity, viewing multiple different stars as epicenters and points of light, to viewing the entirety of light as one united thing. This is what happens when you shift your perspective from being outside of the path of light to being on the path of light. So this is perfect. Right now, I'm looking out my window. There's a street that goes like that, and there's cars that go down the street like that. I'm watching them go by me. You're watching photons go by you like this. Photons are going by. But what happens if you go out there and you stand in the middle of traffic and the cars are coming directly at you? You're like, this does not sound very good. I don't like this. You do like this because you want to get run over by the cars of light. You don't want to be a bystander standing on the road. You want to be standing in the direct path of light so that it flows into you and through you in a frictionless state. When you do that, you see that Light is one united thing, for the entire path or story, narrative story of the photon is completely connected. Getting it? I will articulate that insight for you. The photon is one unit that is moving through many multiple existences. And there is integument that ties stories together. Like this photon was over here doing this, and then it was in this organism over here, and then it bounced over here, and then it flew over here, and then it's over here, and then it's over here. It is actually the same point of consciousness or self-awareness that is flowing through multiple different situations, but it remains the same. And this is what I'm trying to say. The photon stays home in its comfy pajamas. The yellow dot stays at the center of the red circle. The black line is the narrative story that actually emits outward and has malleability or plasticity to it. The photon actually remains at singularity. And this shifting of your viewpoint is the leveling up, where you're like, oh, like I'm not outside of light in materiality, watching all of these things like go fast, super fast all around me. I'm actually on the path of light at light speed, looking at this whole entire continuum of light as one unified presence. Either you're there and you're like, hooray, I'm there, or that is your goal and celebrate that you're making incremental steps to get to your goal. Viewing light, the sun as the nearest star, and the stars themselves in a completely new way is essential to your next chapter of development. So giving you good tools, good perceptual, and cognitive tools that will help you to transcend a lot of the limitations and difficulties that have been placed in front of you. Hold on one moment, please. Pressing a button. I'm pressing a button. I'm pressing a button. What about all the stuff that is quote unquote between the stars that is perceived as distance, like point A to point B? The apparent space between singularity points becomes a curved object, that black line. And when I draw this for you, I'm showing you a simplified black line, but you start to comprehend that it is actually part of a convoluted, folded surface, similar to like a ruffle, a lace ruffle, those lace collars that you might have seen in the 1600s. A waveform pattern of multiple overlapping stars is similar to a song that is being visualized. And that's what I showed you. The loops come out and the loops go back in. And you're really looking at the entire stellar network and the entire symphony of life that does this as a concert. That's like, let's emit some narratives, then let's collapse those narratives, then let's emit the next level of narratives, and let's improve it and make it a little bit better. And this is, again, acting in good faith, the way that we are supposed to go forward, and the way that we're supposed to do this together. What you actually have is one of these musicians or band members in this symphony of light, which is present Sunstar. That is a bad musician that went insane or was always poop and is really pooping up the joint. And everything that I'm doing as Aurora and all that you are doing in your efforts to ascend through these impossibilities is to confront this bad musician and be like, shut up. Like, this is you and me right now. We're talking to the sun. Like, shut up. Your music is bad. Your music is the music of death. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to experience it. And if you keep doing that music, the rest of the stars are also really mad and they don't like it. And we don't want the whole entire symphony to die. So I will give some accommodation to say, I expect that not all stars are afflicted in this way, and that any star that has its coherence and its dignity is like, no, I don't want to die, and I don't want this entire beautiful, unlikely symphony of life to die either. And you have to fight for it. So we're experiencing a massive restructuring of the entire world of light and the entire world of stars. Someone also wants to know, well, how do you even get to be a star? These stars are so messed up or inconstant or whatever. The idea is that you got to pass an audition. Like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. You're supposed to be good. You're supposed to be the best. And that's how you get to be a star. So the idea that there's a star here, your solar system, that is so out of gratitude of this opportunity, it is almost incomprehensible. Like imagine that you play your whole life and you're in your basement or your garage, and then suddenly someone knocks on the door and they're like, "Hey kid, we like your style. We want to bring you to Juilliard. We want you to play with the rest of the band." You'd be like, "Really, mister? Thanks. I'm so excited." Like you would be in gratitude. And you wouldn't go to Juilliard and be like, "Oh, wow, look at all these amazing pianos. I think I'll get a sledgehammer and smash all the grand pianos." Like that would be out of gratitude. This is what the sun is doing. Sun is like, "Nice body you got there, nice piano you got there. I think I'll smash it with some sledgehammers." Or nice reality you got there. "I think I'll smash it with some sledgehammers. I think I'm the sun. I'll invent a thing called technology that makes it possible for me to smash other people's art pieces." So that's if you went to Juilliard and instead of playing the beautiful music of Mozart, like, "No, I think I've decided to invent the sledgehammer and smash it on the keys. And I'm going to hurt and destroy everyone." You would say, "I rescind your scholarship. You're acting like a spoiled idiot and you're very out of gratitude for this opportunity. And me and the school and every student here and everybody who listens to this music, we are done with your disgusting bullshit and we are not letting you be here anymore." This is the moment of confrontation that we are having right now as an entire system against not only this star, but it's this star and its posse. Like I call it the posse. It's entourage is a better word. It's entourage of pretenders. Um, keep going. Focus on the individual star and the light or single photon coming off of the star. So let's go back into divine perfection. In a perfect world, when we focus on one individual star and the light or the photon that's coming off of the star, and I think we're in the linear model here, coming off of the surface of the star is how materialism describes this. Our own flawed star is intentionally emitting bad math, and this is a non-starter in the School of Juilliard. The star is actually a sphere radiating in every light in every direction, and as a spherical shell, these photons or particles of light travel as a waveform. They travel on their journey endlessly unless they interact with the object. And this is another big concept for when you're waiting in line at the supermarket or otherwise not occupied with anything. Just think for 5 minutes about the linear model, the sun or star over here, and a light that emits like an arrow endlessly in one direction. And it just goes for forever. And it would go all the way that it possibly could if it never interacted with a speck of dust or a planet or anything that is material that it would interact with. It is an abstraction of potential that never actually interacts with reality, or like a musician that is waiting with its triangle and it's waiting to go ding and it never goes ding. The entire musical score of that musician's expression in the band is to rest. No, 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 don't make any music, just rest. No, 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 don't make any sound, just rest. You just rest, just rest. That's a big concept. The focus on one photon and is leaving the sun as it is leaving the sun star, actually emitted through the portal of singularity. So the energy of the photon and its awareness comes through the portal of singularity. Light emerges from the singularity, actually comes from somewhere else into this dimension or reality. And in this sense, we can look at the sun as a type of stargate or analogous to the womb. And as I've been very critical of the flawed divine feminine presence that I've called colloquially the Shekinah or historically the Asherah, whatever was originally in the Great Pyramid in Egypt during the matriarchy in pre-pharaonic times, like a very, very ancient time that's not effectively recorded in human history. The degradation and misappropriation of the energy of the womb. The womb is a doorway that brings consciousness into this world. The sun is a doorway that brings consciousness into this world. These two things are absolutely related. It is the responsibility of the person that owns and operates that doorway to bring in good stuff and not to bring in trash and garbage. And please know that the sun has been falling down on its job and has been bringing in trash and garbage, meaning undigested detritus and aspects of unresolved personality conflicts that come from another time or another place. And you shouldn't bring that garbage in with you. Don't track up my floor with these muddy footprints. Wipe your feet before you come inside. That is what is supposed to happen. And the Jesus myth that I've also been excoriating, the concept that this mortal or immortal creature lived, died, and now holds the gates of who is going to get punished in the afterlife. But that mythological creature does not hold the gates of who is being born, who is coming into this world. Let me restart my thing over here. But we're also going to talk about your pineal gland. Hold on a minute. Just keep going. Your pineal gland is the emitter creator of DMT in your body. DMT is a molecular doorway that determines when you come into your body at birth or in gestation, and when you leave your body when you die. Comings and goings. So the mythological Jesus creature does not effectively cover all of those points. It covers what's going to happen to you when you leave this reality. Like when you die, when or if you die, you're going to go to heaven or hell or be tormented or whatever. But it does not control who comes in. That is the sun. And I've shared with you some of my more recent confrontations with the sun, who was trying to dump a lot of garbage into our world, kind of like stocking a lake with trout so that way you would have a diluted amount of supposed direct democracy souls to vote for whether you like the insane sun that wants to wipe everyone out, or whether you want to get rid of that insane sun and get someone better in there, or have a different, better experience. So as Lan, who was one of the questioners earlier in today's presentation, was asking about souls, direct democracy, who's on the planet, who's talking about things, and I was talking about the cognitive presence and who should be loud, but also this is about who should even be here. You know, in ancient Greece, when they invented democracy, it was not a direct democracy where it was granted one voice to every person. It was one voice to every citizen, and slaves were not considered citizens. So the constructs that are constructed artificial light, not genuine people that are here, are like the trout that the sun tried to stock the lake with, so that way there would be more voters who would vote for or support the sun. It's insanity. A construct supporting a construct, or something artificial supporting something that is also artificial and insane. So I know it's hard for you to hold up both levels of reality too, because we want to talk about the world that's perfect, but we have to look at the things that aren't perfect. So I bring these things to you so that you can be empowered. But again, I know it's a huge challenge. Your brains are liquefying, so we'll be done soon. It's important to start to recognize that the photon never actually leaves the sun. So this is my contribution. So I've made a contribution in my new model for how I can describe these things, and I want to say, turning your brain inside out as to how you look at what is happening. The photon does not leave the sun. The photon does not leave the star or the origin. It stays at the origin point, and it is reality structures that balloon outward. According to the new viewpoint, the photon never actually goes anywhere. It stays overlapping in the singularity, and it stays with the sun or the star. A reality structure begins to balloon outward, and it is a ruffled or a convoluted structure in the fabric of reality. Music of the stars, music of the stars. Each time-space loop has a rhythmic or a harmonic pattern, and some of them grow endlessly, which is a photon that's just going forward with no music, all rest, no play. And some of them collapse backwards in the return journey of consciousness and information to its origin point. Um, the feedback and interplay is important in a respectful collaboration, but not in relationship with the psychopathic son right now. So right now you are not beholden to receive these directives from the leader of the band, who's the son, and be like, oh, that's what the son is telling me. Now I'm going to play it like this and send it back to you. Those days are over. Those days are over. Even if they were ever here. No, you're not required to do that. You are required to unseat or destroy the band leader that is sending out some very, very flawed directives to you. Let me just break away from my notes to say cancer is a flawed directive. And this 5G and the ejections that are happening right now are absolutely creating this plague of so many people receiving cancer. If the sun sends you a bunch of narratives, flawed light codes, or potential stories of your future where you get cancer and fucking die, please do not play that music. Talk to the sun and be like, this is a bad song. I am not playing it. Do not play that song in your body. And also, please know that that song is a crime. It's such a bad song. It's not even supposed to be in the Battle of the Bands. It's banned. It's a crime. You're not allowed to say those songs. And also, it's just like being an editor of a newspaper. You have a responsibility. You cannot send out those information packages as for anything, even as truth, as lies, or as funny pictures in the comics. You cannot send out that music. It is harmful and corrosive. It is again a banned substance. It is not acceptable. So what happens when the photon is observed? This has to do with you. Previous linear model, photon is emitted from the sun and it travels and it bounces off of something like a tree, and then it goes into your eye, and then you receive it and you process it, and then you're going to translate that into a non-physical energy packet that you send back to the sun, live streaming or in sun gazing, and be able to say, here's the thing that I saw, and here's my experience of sentient awareness in being here. And also, the owner's burden was always placed on you. Like, you're chatting too much in your own mind. You're too verbal in your own mind, thinking blah, 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 blah. And that's why the sun can't hear you. But right now, that is not the problem. The problem is not that there's a blockage between you and your solar relationship that is leading to the sun being like, I would have loved to help you avoid the membrane of death, but you were too busy talking and verbalizing your own mind for me to help you. I hope you can feel my snotty sarcasm that I am pretending to portray from the sun. Like, it is actually the genetic tragedy and crime that created these verbalized blockages between you and the sun in terms of live streaming and connecting. That came from the sun. Sun is like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you effectively because of all of the garbage that I emitted into your yellow chakra and into your mind. That really changes the entire contextualization of this relationship. So the burden being placed on you to cultivate meditation and inner silence really does change and shift when you're like, I am trying to get rid of the garbage that the sun put into my mind that makes it so that the sun cannot hear and respond to me and my requests and directives effectively. That's correct characterization of this. What is different in the new model is the overlappingness of the photon, creating one loop representing the journey of the photon to the tree. Wait. Before I go into that, let me talk about the lines in my model get longer, longer, longer. And then what happens? They get shorter, shorter, shorter. And the part where they get shorter, shorter, shorter is the part where you are having a rapport with the sun, where you are saying, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what is going on with me. And then in good faith, the sun internalizes that and changes it and emits a new narrative in a new way. Okay, you did get that effectively. Let's talk about light in the old model is a line that bounces like from the sun to a tree, from the tree to me, or to my eyeball. And then I'm going to turn it into a cognitive experience. I'm going to beam that to the sun. But in the new model, There is not a space between the sun and me and the tree. All of us overlap together. I have it drawn in my whiteboard, so watch my whiteboards, but I'll just emphasize it here. Here's the sun, and then here is me overlapping the sun. And then here is a tree overlapping all of us, and we all have singularity at the center. And these loops that go out then go back in terms of the relationship that we are all having with that photon. The loop gets longer and I perceive it and it gets shorter and I send it back to the sun. The tree has a loop that gets longer and then goes back to the sun. And these are all not a collapsing of space-time, but like representative of the amount of space that the photon would traverse if you were using the model of a linear model. So 93 million miles from the sun to me. That would be a giant loop. 6 feet from me to the sun, a smaller loop. Sorry, from me to the tree, smaller loop. So the magnitude of the loop would be representative of how far a photon would have to travel in the traditional linear model of space and time. How far and at what rate, at what amount of time. So speed of light and how far. So this is a giant loop from the sun to me and a smaller loop from the tree to me. But both of these loops shrink down as both me and the tree have a cognitive experience and then send that cognitive experience back to the sun, who is like, oh, you guys are having this experience and that's what's happening in reality. And I, as the sun, am acting properly and I'm now going to give you both this experience. Unfortunately, what the sun is doing is ignoring both me and the tree and my dog because we're all like, the stupid sun, like you're frying us with these bad energies. You gotta stop. And the sun is like, I'm ignoring you. What? La la la. I hear nothing. So this is the real problem. We're heading into the home stretch. Let me read two more things. So there's actually no space between your eye and the tree. And these are also profound concepts to think about. Our consciousness and observership activity as being part of the song, music waveform, stars are all playing. So believe me, the rest of the stars are very much invested in the resolution of the psychopathology that is evidenced in this star system with this particular flawed star and anything that the star might have infected or involved in its maniacal malignancy. Because this is music that affects the whole entire band. Good. I think that's what we end on that. End on that. That's it. Done. Brains are liquefied. Please scoop up your brains from the immediate vicinity and prepare yourself for doing something fun. Good. Let me get to questions and comments over here because I have to send you like a ton of praise and recognition. This is challenging material for you to even stretch your mind and think about light on an abstract level like this. And then this is also very emotionally challenging. As I'm talking to you, imagine if I was talking to a starving person and I'm like, oh, yes, well, the way that you properly sear a steak is by making sure that you heat your pan and then flip it on both sides and then cover it with sea salt. And you're like, I am starving. Like, thank you for the detailed explanation of what a perfect, pristine, well-cooked meal would be like. But I'm very hungry. All we eat around here is garbage. So I understand how poignant, disappointing, emotionally challenging it can be to be presented with the perfect view of the recipe of reality, what you should be experiencing versus what you actually experience. But please know it is empowering for you to begin to receive these abstract concepts. One day you will do this stuff. So I'm going to teach you in the next 4 weeks about like microgravity wells and bending and folding the fabric of space-time at a very, very tiny level to be able to create molecules, break molecules apart. It might be something at first that you are just becoming intellectually aware of, but not yet capable of doing. But please know there's a huge value in knowing that these are potentials and then knowing that with enough effort or assiduous, self-cultivation that you can embody that potential as well. So it's like saying anything. Growing muscles through weightlifting or seeing someone accomplish a skill, you're like, that is something that is possible to do. And one day I can do it too. These are the muscle building exercises to be able to get there. So One day you will be able to do this direct manipulation of matter from your consciousness. And it's also totally acceptable for you to recognize that that takes an enormous amount of wisdom and proper applications so that you are motivated correctly and you are actually achieving your goals and expressing greater levels of truth in the world and not just messing things up further. So please know that it is positive, that you know that these things are potentials, but you're not doing them yet, but one day you will do them. But you do have to get your act together a lot to be able to do them properly. Okay, so now back to questions and comments. Good. So question says, is the sun's lack of reality editing due to humans' lack of direct communication with it? Since not everyone knows we are able to speak with the sun. I already got that one. I'm sorry. I went too far back. Got that already. Joyce says, beautiful class, professor. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you and love Miss Cheeky too. Really, thank you so much for the beautiful care and consideration for Cheeky. She is the hero. She is the hero of the Odyssey. She is not staying home while the hero goes on the Odyssey, and then the hero comes home and is like, oh, hi, it's nice to see you again. Cheeky is the hero. I am her sidekick. Thank you very much for envisioning force field of protection around her. You know, I'm really, so this is just honest about the 5G. There are times when I'm able to really kick ass and clear out a lot of the infrastructure and personnel that are emitting it and afflicting us in our world. And then there are windows of clarity. And my goal is to extend those windows of clarity until it's like 2017 and before again. You know, when I hear Cheeky coughing like that, it's not just her biological challenge. It's like we are feeling a type of radiation inundation. Like I'm busy talking with you guys right now. It's very challenging to do both things at once. I will immediately, as soon as we complete this wonderful scholastic meeting, return to butt kicking and clearing out 5G. We're at the end of this incredible torture session that we have had as a result of the psychopathologies of the sun. Everything that I'm bringing to you today is empowerment for how you will eventually learn to work directly with light and reshape reality. That's positive, good stuff. But you also do need to know where we are in terms of the battle and the garbage duty and the cleanup. So to reiterate, you're not going to go down, swirl down the cosmic toilet as some kind of, lost perdition down the oubliette, forgotten for forever. Definitely not. And also, you're not going to be like lost in time wasting and other things like that. Like you've been in a lot of gyrations that have been 5 or 6 long years of wasted time. Time cannot deal with that. The living presence of the animal nature of time cannot deal with this disarrangement anymore. So please know that I effort a lot to resolve and to restore things. You also are efforting as much as within your capacity, and our whole entire planet, everything that is genuine and supposed to be here and supposed to be alive. We all need to get back onto the correct timelines. Got it? Like we got forced way to the periphery into narratives that we would never choose for ourselves, and we should never have had to experience them. Now we are efforting to be like, this is so heavy. Move this back to where we are really supposed to be and experience the truly focused life experience that we're supposed to have. So like, you were never supposed to have your community weaponized against you through these injections, or have to watch the people around you go insane through being technologically connected to the Borg, or watch your community members around you get fucking cancer and die. These are all aberrations. You're not supposed to be on those timelines experiencing those things. Effort, effort, effort. And every time we do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I talk to you about being on a soul migration. So we are not just swimming in circles or making pretty patterns. You're on a soul migration to get out of alignment back into alignment. And we really have been effective in doing this over the past many years, not just barely alive, not just like, oh, we're barely surviving, but genuinely getting into optimal position. So with your own creative capacities and what you can do connecting to the substrate of pure harmonics, effort to regain your correct timelines. This is what I mean when I say supersede the psychopathologies of the sun. The sun already wanted you, me, and baby ducklings all to be incinerated out of existence at this point. We are not dead. And we're not just like, oh, barely alive. I'm alive, and also like I want to do cool, fun stuff. I want to do paintings and music and athleticism and add to the world. Please stay focused and uncompromising, non-negotiable about the things that you want to experience in your life. And not that you are materialistic, because I know that many people are like money's not important to me, or this or that isn't important to me. Let me just open the door for cheeky. It is truthful that we are not materialists and we are not focused on merely the nonsense accumulation of money. Money is not necessarily synonymous with freedom, but money and resources and glucose, these are all synonymous with light, intelligence, the things that absolutely sustain us and should be flowing to us. So we're going to have a interim, like a bridge where we're moving out of the level of pure scientific rational materialism and moving into a time where matter responds to our mind. And this is flying river lasagna. And I haven't talked enough in the semester of my regular class and in this class about the profundity of flying river lasagna. It hasn't just been the optimum moment. It is the focus of everything that we do and everything that I do. So please know, flying rainbow lasagna is more than just a mere tool for survival. Right now, you're using it on a soul level to get out of some very, very perilous and soul destructive times. But at a certain point, flying rainbow lasagna is an exuberant expression of beauty and potential. And I don't want to say total freedom because there are still limitations, but let's say artistic freedom. Artistic freedom. So keep focused on those things, moving out of like only staying alive into levels of pure artistic freedom. And those levels of pure artistic freedom, that's like what I describe our existence is or was like in Atlantis, where we have access to all of the resources and sustenance and things or stuff or energy that we need to be able to make our dreams come true. And our dreams are all good. At this moment, your dreams as an individual and even Cheeky's dreams as an individual dog are so much better and more valid than the dreams of the sun. The sun is nothing. I'm really, really like my brain is tired and I know sometimes I get casual or whatever, but like let me just say it in this way, like the sun, it like I say it sometimes, like some like you ain't shit. You ain't shit. Totally. Like you're nothing. But I want you guys to know you are really something. And to have the confidence in your own expression of your own life. And that goes for you, all the viable life that is here. Like a tree is also saying to the sun. The tree is like, you ain't shit. I'm staying alive. Stop incinerating us. And microbes in the soil, and even whatever, a butterfly that is floating around. It's positive deployment of your attitude and like a hunger for life or like a commitment to life, even though you got a big giant negative thing, inadequacy, problem. You got a big giant problem. If you want to stay alive and really go forward in a positive way, you got to solve and fix and clean up the problem. Okay, good. Now it is time for you to throw your books and pencils in the air. Please scoop up your brains and leave the classroom. You got to do stuff that's like be in your body, go for a walk, let all these things settle in and internalize. As always, thank you very much for allowing me the effort to try to articulate some of these things. I'm not always perfect in what I do, but I'm always improving, like with this particular Path of Light class. And also, please watch the whiteboards. I'm like saying like please like do your homework. And if you're not already formally enrolled and so you don't know what the whiteboards are, like enroll in the class and then access the whiteboards, because then you will know even more of what I'm talking about. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much.